Huzzah and welcome, my friends, to the Wandering Wireless Renaissance. What? If I could talk, I'd be smart. The Wandering Wondrous Wireless Renaissance Festival. Please sit down, make yourselves comfortable, grab a libation. I know I have. How are you all this fine and wondrous day? Yes, that's good. Not so good. Get that looked at. Thank you very much. Yes, I do look wonderful. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Thank you all for joining us today. This is a labor of love. We're here to try to bring a little bit of the Renaissance Festival that you all love and know to you. We have a wonderful schedule for you today. We have artists. We have glorious magic and mischief. We are going to do things right. We are going to have fun. And you have me, the Mystic Bob. So please sit down, enjoy, and get ready for, we're going to have Tibbles the Fairy. She is lovely and amazing and wondrous. And don't tell King Richard because he can't see her. We're going to have the amazing Alexander James Adams, who is just an incredibly astounding musician. We're going to have stories with Periwinkle Twinkle the Fairy. No, we're not. This is what happens when you don't tune up the prognostication. Things don't work right. But don't worry, we have lots and lots of stuff coming up. We have astounding escapes with the lovely Dr. Judas and marvelous Magnolia. If she hasn't set him on fire again. That happens from time to time. But we are all excited to see you, know that you are here, and welcome. Because I can see some of you in the back still filtering in. And please come in, have a seat. There's great room down front here. So I am the Mystic Bob. My home fair is the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival, where some of you may have seen me. And those of you who haven't, come see me. I'm lovely. I'll tell you I'm magnificent. I am the royal soothsayer for King Richard and his wife, Queen Annabelle. They are lovely, lovely people. And I prognosticate and tell them all sorts of wonderful sooths. Uh, for those of you who don't know, sooth means truth, and it's an old Latin word. And we use Latin because it's fancy and it astounds the royals and mystifies them. So, in the time that we are set, we were both prognosticators, were soothsayers, were both important and feared because the mysticism of the time was very real. The other world, the veil was thinner at that time than it is currently. And people felt the spirits and they heard their call. And so soothsayers such as myself were very necessary to allow the communication between the veil and interpret what was being said. Dream reading was very important, and that would later go on to be codified by some sort of weird Austrian when Austria eventually gets created. Yes, everybody knows Dr. Freud in your time, but not now, because he doesn't exist. We had many tools that we used. We had crystal balls, we had fire. For those of you who can see, I have my fire with me. And it smells good. We had rune stones and tarot cards and bones because everybody had chickens. Chickens were ubiquitous. Gotta love those dinosaurs. Keeping lubricated so I can talk here with my lovely libations. Eventually, people would settle down and they would start congregating, but for a long, long time, the mystics were the witches, they were the village wise women, they were herbalists, so they would be somebody that you would come to as a doctor. You would go to see them when you were sick. They would make poultices. They knew what to eat. They told you what berries to make you happy and what berries not to eat because they would kill you. And that, my friends, is very, very important information because nobody likes berries that kill you. Everybody likes berries that make you smile. I like berries that make me smile. I call my berries wine, but other people do other things. but you would go to see these women, and they would have generations of knowledge passed down: how to do things, when to do things, how to do things. They would make the village run. They were kind of the social lubrication that nobody wanted. Everybody would allow things to go, and they would make things happy, and they would pass down knowledge. They would also allow, well, chickens, as I said, were ubiquitous. They would read bones. They would cast lots. And they would tell things like when weather was coming. Was the rain going to ever show up? Was it ever going to stop? And these are very, very important things to have. Overall, it was a time when the church was important. The we were starting to move into the church becoming very, very important. Uh, and we were having things go. Uh, there's lots and lots of interaction with the spirit world. People would see saints and prophets and hear voices, and you needed people like myself to communicate that and talk about that. There's lots going on, and we've got, fairies. The fairies were very real people, entities. Time they were all around, and you could hear them, and you out loud because you wanted to make those people like you and be nice to you and understand that you were not somebody to be messed with, because they weren't deliberately mean, but they were things that could cause problems. They could make crops die. They could make animals die. Everybody knows that iron is antithetical to the Fae. A lot of people don't realize that's where wind chimes came from, was the noise would keep the Fae at bay and keep them away from your doorstep. At this time, we have the rise of Samhain and things that are going. We have the beginning of the Halloween. So, and we have the wondrous in his educational video. So please sit back and take a watch and enjoy.
Greetings. My name is Fergus Namevrak of the musical duo Einini. Much of the music that we sing has its roots in folklore, myth, and legend. But my personal favorite variety of historical human confabulation is the fairy tradition. I've studied a great deal of this tradition, and now I would like to share some of this knowledge with you. You may know some of what I am about to share with you, but if not, I hope that you enjoy the knowledge that I am about to impart. Let's begin. Many people may think that fairies are small people with wings, the image presented in the Disney movies or in the artwork of Amy Brown, but that is the result of Victorian sensibilities. The fairy tradition is much older, much wilder, much more epic. It all began with Neolithic agriculturalists living in what we today think of as Ireland. These people built passage tombs, large artificial mounds with tunnels leading down into the center. Nobody is 100% certain why they built these or what they were used for, although they were certainly religious in significance in some way. But thousands of years later, when the Celts first arrived in Ireland and found these passage tombs, they didn't know why they existed, who built them, or what they were for. And so they told tales to explain the existence of these hollow hills. They told stories of the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the goddess Danu. The Tuatha De Danann were giants who loved to hunt. They were skilled warriors, and they were constantly fighting against their ancient enemy, the Fomorians. They included such characters as Lu of the Long Arm, Bress the Beautiful, and Ogma Sun-Faced. Then the Milesians arrived. Coming from the north of Spain, the Milesians arrived and ultimately ended up conquering the Tuatha De Dananns. But then the two sides struck a bargain. The Milesians would live above Ireland, above ground, and the Tuatha De Danann would take the bottom half, going to live underground. The Celts called these hollow hills Shee, and it is believed that they were the passages to the fairy otherworld. The Tuatha De Danann became the Thena Shee, the people of the hollow hills. Over time, as their importance dwindled, they grew smaller in stature until they were the same size as a normal man. They emerged from the Shee to interact with humans or for other reasons. And it is from the Thena Shee that all Fae are descended. Many of the creatures that we know of today are originally types of fairies. Goblins, dwarves, merfolk, leprechauns. These and many others are all kinds of fairies. Some of them were helpful, such as the brownies, who were known to do household chores, cleaning and tidying and other things in exchange for a bowl of milk left on the back doorstep at night. Others were mischievous, like the pixies of Cornwall and Devon, who would steal horses from the stable at night and take them for frantic joy rides through the forest, returning them in the morning, their manes knotted and tangled from where the pixies held them as they rode through the forest. Others were monstrous, such as the Redcap, a goblin who lived on the border between England and Scotland, and would often re-dye his cap red in the blood of his victims. A common division amongst the Fae was the Seelie and the Unseelie courts. Many people think of these as good and evil, but that is not at all the case. The Unseelie were actively dangerous, monstrous in appearance as well as behavior. Encountering one of these was certain to end in death, as they tore you apart or consumed you. The Seelie were less overtly dangerous, but make no mistake, they were still dangerous. The Seelie were beautiful and refined and apparently honorable, but they had no more consideration for humans than their Unseelie counterparts. It is always prudent to be very cautious of striking a bargain with any Fae, because the cunning machinations of any Fae means that it is very likely that engaging in a bargain with any Fae means that you will probably end up victim to some wily trick. There are many commonalities amongst the Fae. They are all bound by rules. If you know the rules that governs the behavior of the Fae, then you can use that as some measure of protection for yourself. Certain items were also known to be protective. Iron is the most commonly known, but salt was often also used as a protection. Mistletoe offered some protection against the Fae, as did wearing your clothing inside out. Church bells were known to drive the fairies away. Rosemary also had protective properties, and these are just a few examples. The Fae are often closely associated with illusions. One story tells of a traveler who was walking along at night and stopped and built a fire, and then he was joined by a small hairy man, and after a while, as the fire began to dwindle, the hairy man went over to a pile of firewood. He took a log, broke it over his thigh, and put it on the fire, and the fire soon roared to life once more. After a while, as the fire began to die again, the small hairy man motioned to the traveler, and indicated that he should get some wood from the pile. But the traveler suspected some trick, and so he stayed where he was. The next morning, as the sun rose, the little man vanished, and the traveler looked over at where the pile of wood had been, only to see that it was no longer there. Where it had been was a lethal drop from the edge of a cliff. Had the man gone to get the firewood, as the hairy man had suggested, he surely would have plummeted to his death. Other stories tell of pieces of gold given as gifts or payment by the Fae, which turned to leaves the next day. It is always impossible to tell if the face of a fairy standing before you is his real face. Ultimately, the tales of the fairies probably originated from phenomena that weren't able to be explained by the people who didn't understand what was going on. Fairies are often blamed for missing items. Stories of changelings have recently begun to be suspected as an explanation for autism, which was not understood by people more than a couple of hundred years ago. I've even read an essay by an author who suggests that changelings are simply a way to provide a socially acceptable excuse for behaviors that are not socially acceptable. For example, when a child has an injury or something goes wrong with it, people would often suggest that it was a changeling, that whatever injury it had suffered was a result of its time with the fairies. But perhaps it was negligence by a mother who had left the child alone for a moment and come back to find that something had happened. After that, when she got her child back, she would be sure to place a pair of iron tongs over the cradle as a protection from that child being taken as a changeling again. But perhaps what's really happening is the act of placing these iron tongs across the cradle may serve as a mnemonic aid, a reminder to check on the child before leaving it alone, thus preventing some further accident. There are also stories of fairy brides, of women being whisked away by some fairy creature just before her wedding, only to be returned disheveled and out of breath just as the wedding was beginning. Perhaps in a time when women were not allowed such autonomy in their behavior, maybe when they were being forced into a marriage not of their choosing, this was a way for them to have one last fling with their lover before being forced into a state of servitude and bondage to another man, and provide an acceptable excuse. I was taken by the fairies. An interesting idea, at the very least. I would like to finish by telling you about my personal favorite kind of fairy, the Nuclevi. The Nuclevi resembled a horse and a rider, but not like a centaur with the human torso in place of the horse's head. Rather, the human torso rose out of the horse's back, where a rider would normally be, so it still had the horse's head in addition to the human head. Its arms were long enough to drag on the ground, and its neck appeared broken. The head was lolling about on the shoulders. But the most remarkable feature of the Nuclevi was that it had no skin. Muscle, sinew, black blood coursing through veins, all visible. The Nuclevi was known to rise up out of the Scottish oceans and chase down its victims, dragging them back into the sea to drown them and devour them. The only protection against the Nuclevi was fresh running water. Even a trickle was sufficient. The Nuclevi could not cross running water. As long as you got to the other side of a stream or a brook or a river, you would be safe. I am fascinated by the Nuclevi because it is so very much the opposite of what most people think of as a fairy. As time passed and the Victorians tidied up the stories of the Fae, made them more suitable for children's tales, and James Barrie's stories of Peter Pan with the character of Tinker Bell became the most widely known vision of the fairies. This vision being solidified by the Disney film. Many people lost the knowledge of the old Celtic fairy tradition. But hopefully now that you have heard some of these stories, you are more aware of the rich tapestry that is the fairy tradition. I hope you have enjoyed learning this information.
Welcome back. Was that Fergus was just amazing. That was so informative. Um, You can find Mr. Fergus on Facebook as Inini or Game, sorry, Game Dork Gaming. Having a hard time focusing this morning. He asks that all of your donations go to the Medieval Fair of Norman, which is at medievalfair.org. So please send a couple of dollars his way. Groats, any sort of guild that you have, please put some tips out there for our wonderful performers today. They are amazing, and that was so informative. Thank you, Fergus. I even learned something, which is saying something. So as we go through today, think about what sort of questions you have, what sort of things you like, what sort of things that you're interested in, because there are all sorts of fairs. When we get back, when the plague has elapsed, and it will, I can see that coming, it will elapse. We're going to get together, and you have questions, and that will be the time to ask these wonderful mystics and fae and fairies. And really, there's no difference between fae and fairies, but I like saying both of them, so indulge me. Plus, nobody's here to stop me. So, uh, but you can ask those questions, and most of them have wonderful, elaborate answers that they can give you. For those of you, you can see them because sometimes we are very elusive and you can't find us. Um, so hopefully you learned a little bit from Fergus. I know I did. And again, look for him as Ainini on the Book of Faces and Game Dork Gaming. And please, please, we're doing this to help out, and just a little bit of, a couple of dollars in the hat towards the Medieval Fair of Norman, because they are wonderful people and it is an amazing place. And uh, they need money to keep going. They wish they were open for you. Curse you, plague! But again, this will pass, and we will all be together to play again, and we're looking forward to that. Um, Soon, in a few more minutes, we're going to have the wonderful Tibbles the Fairy come up, and she is going to talk to us and give us all sorts of information and stories and fun, and it will be great. I know I personally am looking forward to this. This is going to be an experience, uh, and you'll be able to listen and hear and see, because we can do all those magical things and move them together. Are you staying hydrated? Stay hydrated. It's important in this time of plague. I know nobody likes water, but you gotta drink it. Well, except King Richard. King Richard likes lots of water, as pirate poison, as he called it the other week. See, I was paying attention. I listened. The magic of ice. I like ice. So thank you for being with us here this morning. Okay. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is some of the tools of prognostication, things that we use. Um, my crystal ball has been eaten by one of my familiars, so I don't have that right in front of me right now. But one of the things that I have that you can see, you can't see very clearly here, but these are rune stones. And of course, you can't see it very clearly because of the light. But rune stones were anything. They were bits of they were bits of tree bark. The original reference we have to rune stones were actually that the German peoples would cut bits. That's my pantomime of cut of birch bark, and they would carve staves on them, and then they would cast lots. Um, and that's a reference in Tacticus's Germanicus. Try saying that 3 times fast. Uh, and what they are is they're bits of old rune Old Norse writing that were put down. They were letters, staves, if you will, that were put down, and then people ascribe different meanings to them. And so people will take those and they will cast them. Um, and those of you who have seen me around know that that's something that I do at fair. Uh, and the different positionings and the different meanings between the stones and the positions give us sort of a picture, a story. Because as my lady wife, who is off tending to magical and mystical things right now, uh, will often tell you that it's not about fortune telling; it's about storytelling. And it's about taking what we see and turning that into a story that will allow you, the querent, because that's what we call the person on the other side of us, to uh, make some sort of meaning and understand some sort of answer to the question that you have. And it's, to me, it's a very magical thing when it happens. It allows us to form, well, it's a collaborative storytelling. We tell you what we see, you tell us what you see, and together we come up with an amazing story that hopefully makes you feel a little better, walk away with a little bit better understanding in life. And that's something that to me is everyday magic that people don't get enough of. And I love the look in people's eyes when that happens. So thank you for being part of the magic. Um, People don't realize how magical they really are uh, when they're out there. So a lot of times people would go to the witches who didn't look anything like Disney tells us that they did, and they would get these answers. You know, they would be looking for life answers. They would be looking for questions or answers to questions. They would have questions, but they were not always amazingly huge things. You know, they were simple things like, do I plant my crops now? You know, is grandpa going to get better? And, you know, these rows and rows of herbs and crafts that you see when you go to these herbal shops. That's what a lot of these houses look like. They had all these little jars to make poultices, to make potions, to make things. And that's where the saying, the worse it smells and the worse it tastes, the better it probably is for you, comes from. I don't know how true that is, but for those of you who like Ben Gay, more power to you. But it helps out a lot. Um, it for making me feel better after I've had to move a refrigerator or two, um, which I still get called on to do quite a bit. And thank you for the magic of refrigeration. Let me tell you, because I do like my water cold. And there's a famous phrase that those who don't look for magic will never find it is really true. You have to look for the magic in your life and derive it for yourself. You can't wait for other people to. And so, but fortunately, we are here to help you out, and we have people coming up. We have the wonderful Tibbles the fairy who's going to be coming up and going to be helping you find a little bit of magic in your life. And here is Tibbles. Put your hands together for Tibbles.
Hi friends, it's Tibbles the Fairy here. You may know me from some of the Midwest shows. I've also been to Florida and Washington. I've been to California a couple times. So I just wanted to come by and hop into the time machine for a little bit to say hi and to talk with you and to chat. I know that some of you might be familiar with the fact that I do live videos. In those, I can see what you guys are saying to me. I don't know how to run the time machine though, so I can't really see what you're saying. So I will try at a later time to look at your comments and to see what you're saying and to come say hi. Or you can always hop on over to my Facebook page. I will put the link somewhere when I figure out how. Might already be up there. I don't know. The time machine people, they help me out doing this thing. But go ahead and just follow that and you can find all of the links to everything. I was planning on sharing some stories with you today about fairyland and all the world. I do have Lightning with me, so you might see me randomly look at him or interact with him. For those of you that don't know, Lightning is my service dragon. He looks like a puppy, but he's a dragon. He is very, very special. I've had him for about a year now, and he's one of those unique little dragons that only show his wings, but he looks like a puppy. So that's pretty cool. Maybe if he wants to, he'll pop up on the video at some time today. But I figured I would, just in case you've never met me before, I would explain a little bit about who I am, where I'm from, what we're doing here. So, welcome to the Time Machine. This is a very cool place where we're able to get together with a lot of different people from all over the place, from different Ren fairs and different things, and we're all connecting, and we're able to put on a Ren fair for you through your devices. Your fairy boxes, your elf screens, all of them are working together real hard to make sure that we can still get to you. So today I just wanted to, I forgot to paint one nail. How weird. Anyways, I get easily distracted. But today I wanted to say hello. And like I said, I'll hop on into the most frequent questions I get. I am Tibbles the Fairy. My story is that I am from the Isle of the Fae, which is not Neverland. I'm actually from a different island on the Never Seas. So the Never Seas, there's the main shores of the Fae world, and then there's the Never Seas, and it's just a whole lot of little islands all together. One of those islands is Neverland, which you may have heard about. It has Tinkerbell and Iridessa. Oh gosh, there's so many. Periwinkle, Queen Titania. That's how you say her name, right? I think they have the same name as Queen Titania. Titania? Oh no, I don't know. Pretty sure they have the same name. There's two of them, One of them comes here to the mainland to see you. And then the other one, she's stays in Neverland and helps take care of the pixie dust tree and make sure everything goes well for changing the seasons. I am currently, in the time machine, but I am currently in the mainland trying to make sure that our transition time from winter to spring is going real smoothly. I am a water fairy who specializes in thunderstorms and rainstorms, but more importantly, I also do the rainbows at the end. I love making rainbows ever since I ran into one. I was flying through the air and a water fairy was up there working with some light fairies, and they were making rainbows, and I was still kind of foggy because I had just made a storm and I used to be all yellow, but then I ran into her rainbow, and ever since then I've just kind of started helping making the rainbows, and it ended up when I ran into the rainbow, it put some dots on my face, and it changed my lipstick, and it changed my clothes. And so I figured, you know what? Why don't we just keep it? It's pretty. You will see if you come and say hi to me more often on my Facebook page or even at fairs that I do all sorts of different fun rainbow makeup and stuff like that. It's always fun to play with things and interact with people. And I really wish that I could be out there right now, and I'm sure you do too, and we could be playing with bubbles and pixie dust and making wishes and stuff. And I have used a whole batch of pixie dust just for the wish that we can get through this and I can be back there with you out at the parks playing and having fun again. Now, I know that you want stories, so let's tell some stories. So I'm going to tell you guys the story of Gingy and Pete the dragon. Now, you might have heard this story because I told it a couple weeks ago at my live, but I'm going to tell it again for those who had never heard it before. Once upon a time, myself and my fairy crew of people. Foxy, Cricket, Ivy, and this was before Pick had joined us, so she wasn't quite with us yet. But we were all out searching for an adventure because we were pretty bored. You see, all of us had the day off, and so we were trying to figure out what to do with our time. So we decided to wander into the fairy forest and search for an adventure, because that's always a great place to find stuff. If you just keep walking, you'll find an adventure eventually. So we were walking along, and all of a sudden we heard this cry of help. And we went, help me, help me. And we went, oh, what could that possibly be? And so we ran on over to the stream, and right there in the middle of the water was a baby dragon, and he was trapped under a net. Now this little dragon was purple with shiny little scales and bright green eyes, and he looked at us and he said, fairies, fairies, please help us. Help us? No, sorry. Will you guys please help me? You see, I was trapped by Captain Hook. He's trying to get his pirate ship to fly, and he wants to attach me to it so that it'll float into the air. But fairies, I'm so very scared. I don't want to be attached to a pirate ship forever. Will you please help me out? And we went, of course, dear dragon, we will help you out. And so we cut him free of the net, and he said, oh, dear fairies, thank you so much. My name is Pete, and I would love to repay your kindness with some kindness of my own. You see, recently I went out on an adventure with Gingy the gingerbread. And Lightning, I'm trying to tell a story. Stop whimpering, please. And he started to tell us the story about how him and Gingy were out on the forest the other day. And they started to search through the sand. And they found all sorts of shiny jewels and shiny treasures and stones and things, but they found some things that were very curious. You see, they were these colored flat stones that were hard like rocks, but they weren't rocks, and they weren't anything that we had ever seen before. And so he was telling us that his portion of the treasure is actually with Gingy over at Gingy's house. And so we said, oh, that's great to know. Well, do you know where Gingy is right now? And he said, well, he's probably at home. Last time I checked, he was working with Goldilocks to help get things figured out. So they were working on a best recipe for something or something other. And because he wanted to surprise his wife, Angel Food Cake, with a special treat. So we decided to hop on over. We went over the river, through the woods, and all the way over right next door to Granny's house. And we knocked on the door, and we went, Gingy, Gingy, we have heard that you're home, and Pete the dragon sent us, and we would love to talk with you. Please open up. And there was no response. So we knocked again, and we're like, Gingy, are you home? We've heard of this really cool treasure from Pete, and we want to see it. And there was once again no response. And all of a sudden, the door next door opened up, and Granny poked her head out. And she said, oh, dear girls, it's so great to see you. Come on in. I just made a fresh batch of cookies. Goldilocks is off with Gingy right now, and they're trying to get her cloak repaired. You know, the bright red one? And so we would like, if you would like, you can come and wait with me at my house today until they come back from the seamstress. So we go on into Granny's house, and we're like, Granny, I didn't know that your granddaughter was Goldilocks. I thought your granddaughter's name was Little Red Riding Hood. And she said, oh, that's just what everyone calls her, because we have to hide her pretty golden curls from Rumpelstiltskin. And I said, Rumpelstiltskin, what does he want with her pretty golden curls? And she looked at us and giggled, and she said, Rumpelstiltskin thinks that her hair will turn to solid gold if he spins it. So he keeps trying to steal little strands of it as often as possible. But Goldilocks doesn't like her hair being pulled on, so she has started wearing the bright red hood to try to hide herself from Rumpelstiltskin. We went, that kind of makes sense. Well, all of a sudden outside we heard talking, and we looked out the window, and there was Gingy with Little Red. And we walked on outside, and we're like, Goldilocks, Gingy, it's so great to see you. And Gingy's like, hello, dear fairies, how can I help you today? And we said, Pete sent us. He said that you guys had found a treasure. And he said that since we helped him out with something, he was going to give us his portion of it. And Gingy said, wow, that was very cool. Well, come on in, fairies, and I will show you the treasure. So he opens up this little bitty door, and we look at him, and we're like, Gingy, we're a little taller than you. How are we supposed to get in? And he went, oh, hold on. And he knocked on the door 3 times and opened a bigger door so that way he could have guests. And inside the house we walked, and we saw a big, huge treasure. And in this treasure, there was fairy stones, there was fairy tears, dragon tears, and what we now call fairy glass. Now, fairy glass is something that looks kind of like this. Like I said, it's super flat. One side, it's solid. The other side, it's not. And they come in all different shapes and sizes. And they're really, really cool. And so Gingy showed us these. And he went, well, dear fairies, do you know how these are made? And we went, no, Gingy, please tell us. What is this? How can they be made? And he said, oh, dear fairies, it's such a cool story. Let me tell you. So over in the mainland, humans, unfortunately, they have a lot of trash. And that sometimes their trash ends up in their oceans. And when the waters flow through the seas, they end up in the never seas. And when they hit our magical border, it crushes and collapses. And we found that the only place that you can find these fairy stones is on the Isle of the Fae. And so obviously Foxy, Ivy, Cricket, and I were very, very curious. And we said, wow, what are they? What happens? I don't understand. They're so colorful and they're so unique. And he says, it's just a little bits and pieces of their plastics all combined together to make cute little stones. Now, I think that's pretty cool. And these stones are something that, as far as I know, only us Fae Militia have. Now, Pig has some things, but I think she's got, well, they've got mostly bells. And then Ivy, Cricket, Foxy, and I all tend to give out these little stones. But I want to talk about some of the other treasures that were in there too. Now, this here is a fairy laughter stone. If you look at it super closely, I wonder if I can get it. There it goes. If you look at it, it's all jagged and crooked and crazy. And what these are these are very, very special treasures to fairies. So fairy laughter stones, the way they work is the first laugh makes a fairy. And then every laugh that you have after is collected by those fairies. And we put them into these little stones. Now these little stones are very precious, especially right now when things are so sad, because these are the stones that we give back to you when times are sad or hard or tough. And we want to make things brighter and happier. They're a small little reminder that even in the tough times and the dark times and the hard times, there's always a little room for laughter in them. Some other things is there was cute little jewel clips and things. There were things that Foxy and my friend and Cricket and Ivy, they've started, but Foxy and I really, we like to put them in our hair. So we've got some crystals, got some keys. I found this cross. I think this is a little flower thingy. And then we've got the compass style star. But also in there was this very special gem. You might recognize it. You might actually have some at your house. What you don't know is these are fairy tears. Now, when a fairy gets super duper emotional, when she starts to cry, sometimes it turns solid, and it turns into a solid stone. So one side is where it landed on the ground, super flat, and the other is the bubble of the water buildup, and they turn solid. We're not too sure why our tears turn solid, or why they come out all sorts of different colors. But we do know that they are super duper special, and they're pretty rare too. But they're not as rare as dragon tears. Dragon tears are just like this one. I don't have one with me right now, but they are just like this one, but they're bigger. They're about that big instead of super tiny. So let's see. That big versus the little one. And you might have seen those too. Dragon tears are more rare. What happens is whenever the dragon has its first cry and its last cry of its lifetime, its tears turn solid. Now those are special, special times in a dragon's life. It's the life of a dragon trapped inside a stone. The beginning, it has all of its hopes and dreams and everything that it wants to do as its life as a dragon. And at the end, it has all its memories and its cherished treasures of what it did do and what it wanted to do. And so, those are slightly more rare. There's no difference in the way they look between the first ones and the last ones. So when you find one, you're going to have to put it up to your ear and listen real closely. And does it tell you its dreams, or does it tell you its memories? That's always the key. Now, friends, I feel like I might have time for one more story. So I think I'm going to tell you one more story. So once upon a time, Gingy was out searching the forest for his wife. And she wasn't his wife at the time. He had heard that there was a very, very pretty angel food cake who had gotten lost in the woods and somehow had never come home. So Gingy, being an honorable man that he is, decided to go out to the forest and find her. And he said, I will find her and I will bring her home and I will make sure that she's safe. So out he went and he found this tower. And this tower was pretty tall for Gingy. Now for a normal fairy or elf or nymph, it probably wouldn't have been very tall, but Gingy's only about that big compared to me, and I'm pretty small. So Gingy was out there and he was searching and searching and searching. He came along that tower and he decided that he would look all around it, and there was this tiny little door. And so he's just like, well, whoever is in there must be small like me, so maybe it's worth checking out. So he knocked on the door and there was no answer. So he tried to jiggle the doorknob and he found out that it was unlocked. So he decided to walk up the steps of the tower until he ended up at the top. And up at the top of the tower was this beautiful little angel food cake. And she was sitting there and she was crying. And when he came in, he looked at her and he went, oh dear, you're crying. Are you okay? And she got scared because he was suddenly there. And she went, oh my goodness, there's a person. Oh, you scared me. You're not Devil's Food Cake. Who are you? And he went, Gingy. I'm Gingy, the gingerbread man. I I was walking by and I saw the tower, and it looked like whoever was here was about my size, so I thought I would stop and say hello. And she went, "That is a peculiar place to be. Why are you out in the middle of the forest by my tower?" And he went, "Well, in all actuality, I'm looking for the princess, Angel Food Cake." And she went, "Oh, well, that would be me." Oh, it stopped for a moment. Am I back? I think I'm back. I'll continue. And she went, "Oh, that would be me. I am Angel Food Cake. How can I help you?" And he went, "Angel Food Cake, I've heard you were trapped and captured and lost. And there's all so many stories about what's going on. And some people say you ran away. And I just wanted you to know that your father is looking for you, and he's very, very worried. He has sent out so many people to try to come and find you. And I thought I would come by and I would try to search for you and make sure that you are safe." And she said, "Oh, sorry, the door to the time machine opened, and I don't want it to be too loud." But she said, "Oh, well, that's very kind of you, because actually I'm not lost or anything. I am being held prisoner by Devil's Food Cake." And he went, "No, that's horrible." And so he went, "Well, I don't see Devil's Food Cake around right now. So if we hurry, we can probably get far away from this tower before he ever gets back." And so together they ran out of the tower, and they ran all the way back to the village. And when they got to the village, they ran into Devil's Food Cake. And Devil's Food Cake was like, "Something's not right here. You are supposed to be, not here," he said to Angel Food Cake. And she was just like, "Oh dear, help!" And so Gingy drew his mighty sword, and he challenged Devil's Food Cake to a duel. And the cool part about that is that Gingy won. Gingy won the duel, and he was able to help Angel Food Cake escape. And they got all the way back to the castle. And upon arriving back at the castle, Angel Food Cake was like, Father, Gingy has been such a good dear friend to me during this troubling time. I would just like your permission to begin to court him and to get to know him and to be his friend, because he is such a brave, valiant knight, and I would love to have him on my side." And so, given permission, they began to court, and they began to be friends, and they started to date. Now they are actually married, and I heard that Angel Food Cake actually just gave birth to a little pumpkin the other day. Pumpkin Pie is what they're calling her. And Pumpkin Pie is the cutest little baby. She's so cute. Well, friends, I only have a couple minutes left, but I wanted to say that you are all wonderful, and you are all amazing. And if you happen to be one of those humans or fae or any sort of species that is out there helping to combat this crazy pandemic that's happening, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. I hope that you stay warm and safe in all of this. And for everyone, I want you all to be safe. I want you to make sure you wear your masks when you are out in public. Try to stay that distance so that way us fairies can come and find you and to be able to play with you again, play with bubbles. We can have our jousts, our performers back out, our vendors back out, have our Ren fairs, have our cons, have all of our fun gatherings, so that way you guys can go back to work. and so we can enjoy summer. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's stuck around throughout this and said hi and everything. I will try to respond as soon as I figure out how to work the time machine. And if you would like to come join me some more often, hear more stories, I'm working on getting my fellow fairies to come and join me on my lives. Virtually, of course. We're still keeping that distance, even though we're fairies. We don't think we can get sick, but we don't want to chance it since we do have the human anatomy. All of us fae are being very careful because we're not too sure who can get sick and who can't. Just better to keep everyone safe than to make those chances. So we are working on that. You can find me at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, which I believe is 5. Wait, is it 5 or 3? I always get so confused with your time zones. Well, you can find me at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on my Facebook page. The link is on my link tree, which you can find somewhere around here. And every Monday, I do a live video. I interact with you in your comments, so every video is different. So come on by, say hello, and I just want to say fare thee well. Be safe, be kind, be happy. This will be over soon or later, and we can all be together again. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.
Welcome back. Was that not magnificent? Thank you, Tibbles, for joining us. I appreciate that so much. That was wonderful. Now remember, you can visit Tibbles on the internet, and that is linktr.ee, and then it's slash Tibbles the Fairy. And I believe that link was up on the screen if my mysticism worked the way it was supposed to. So please visit her, put a little money in her virtual tip jar, and tell her how much you love her. In a few minutes, we're going to be joined by the magnificent Mint, the fairy. But before Mint joins us, we have a few minutes, so please sit back, relax, and listen to the dulcet tones of your host. That would be me, in case you were wondering. I'd like to call out and ask, if you have any questions for us, please submit them, send them, let us know you're listening, because, well, we enjoy that sort of thing, and it's great. During Tibble's set, there were a couple of people who wanted to know more about the rune stones and things that we did with those, and we can definitely talk about those. So there are many different rune sets, not just different types of stones, but different alphabets that are used. There's the Elder Futhark and the Younger Futhark, and Futhark actually comes from the first 5 letters, if you will, the first 5 runes that we have, which are Fehu for F, Uruz for U, Radho for R, and then there's the Thorn, which is most people know as Thor's hammer. It looks like a little line with a triangle on it, and that's the TH. And then so Futh, F-U-T-H, Futh. And if I could spell, it's F-U-T-H-Ark. Futhark. Yeah, spelling hard, but it's F-U-T-H-A-R-K. And so it's F, Fehu, Uruz, Thoraz, T-H, Anzus, Radho, and then Kinaz. And those are the first 5 letters of the 24-letter alphabet. The younger Futhark has fewer letters in it. And then there are some regional ones. There are Anglo-Saxon runes, which are when they got mixed in with the English peoples in England, when the Angles and the Saxons settled in there. And that's a whole long thing. Study your history, kids. This is important. And so they're not quite pictograms like you get with Japanese. Um, but Radho, which again I know that doesn't translate very well, but it's a giant R. That's the one I just pulled out here, and that means wheel and travel. And we can see that all over the place. The runestones that we know of were actually in were actually found on stones placed around uh, around Scandinavia, and you would see those, and they would be places that you would be able to say things, and they say great things. They say things that like battles were fought, leaders were here, and apparently people were people all the time, and there are things that say things like, Johann was here. The other one we have here is one of my favorite runes, and again, I realize this is hard to see, but it's a giant X. Oh, look, if you get really close there, you can see it. It's a giant X, and that's Gifu. And Gifu means gift, and the gift in this case is sort of like with a teacher or a mentor and a student. It's the exchange of information. It's the exchange of information. It's the exchange of ideas. But the idea there is always that it's an equal exchange, because you often hear that teachers learn as much from their students as students learn from the teachers. And that's a very important rune to have in your life. And we have so those runestones are scattered across Scandinavia. There are a few that we found in England, in the outer isles of the British Isles. And then when the Scandinavian settlers came to America, the idea of the runestones when they were being rediscovered were so important to them as part of their heritage that there are neo runestones that people created, and you can go visit some of those in museums. I know Oklahoma and Minnesota both have some, and those were created in the 1800s by settlers to America to kind of keep their heritage and their sense of history going, and make things kind of a connection to the old world, which I always find very interesting, because that to me, that connection between old and new world is always something that's fascinating to study and see. And of course, 1 foot in the mystic realm, 1 foot with the Fae, 1 foot in the earthly plane is kind of how I live. So that idea that we are between two worlds is something that's always very, very fascinating to me. And again, a big thank you to Tibbles. If you haven't gone and visited her, I encourage you to step over and visit her at that link that was up, and throw a few coins in her tip jar. And soon we're going to have Mint the Fairy, and Mint has, let's see, the link there is going to be Ko-Fi or Coffee. I don't know how you pronounce that. Because I'm old and I don't know these things. But that's please feel free to take a look at Mint's link while they're talking, and make sure that you visit them and put a few coins in there, a few dollars. Folding coins are always good. We like the cloth money. So please, if you have any questions about the things I'm talking about, feel free to ask. Another thing in my arsenal here is one of my favorite sets of not runestones, but tarot cards, and that is, ironically enough, Taliesin, who is a Welsh poet. And Taliesin, that particular deck is based out of actual Welsh legend, and the artist, it does an amazing job of placing Welsh legends in pictographic form. Big words are hard. Maybe I should stick to the small ones today. but these are intricately detailed cards. Um, and here's one that shows a boar, and this is a boar. I don't know if you can see the boar down there, and the horse coming out of the water, and that is a particular Welsh legend that I am fond of, um, where the heroes of Arthur's court are called to go out, and they have to hunt down the wild boar because the boar is terrorizing the Welsh coast, which is on the west side of England, and tearing things up. And so they're being called to go and talk and protect the people of the land and make sure that they are safe, which is something that legends often talk about, making sure people are safe and making sure that they are protected and that the land is safe, because you have to have that. As we all know, as we're stuck in from the plague, if the land isn't safe, the people aren't safe. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, that myths and legends talk a lot about and remind us of. And my particular, going back to my runestones because I like them, my particular runestones, and I know you can't really see through these, they're actually elk antler. And when you meet me in person, I actually invite you to hold them up and see them and look through them. You can actually see the capillary holes in them, and that allows you to see the connection to nature, because the capillary holes are fascinating. That's what allows the antlers to fall off, is when they grow closed. Okay, so please charge your glasses, make sure you're drinking water, keep hydrated. Mint the Fairy is getting ready to join us, and we're looking forward to what they have to say. So please sit back, settle in, listen. This is going to be a great story time. You're going to learn lots, and kick your feet up, enjoy, and thank you for joining us today. We enjoy having you here. Without you, this is nothing. So thank you all for being here. And Mint the Fairy is about to take the stage, and that is going to be so good. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. This is a new performer to me, so I am very excited to see this. And put your hands together, encourage Mint to come on stage. Thank you very much. Here's Mint.
Well met, and good morrow. It's me, Mint. I'm a little bit away from the lanes of Canterbury right now, but I'm so glad you're here to have some tea with me. I've invited my friend Tulip the snail just here. Oh, do you have your mug, Tulip? There it is. I have my mug, and I have enough to share, so come and have some tea with me. It's so fortuitous you're here just at the right time, because as I was walking through Canterbury this morning, there, cooling on a windowsill, was an entire rack of fresh baked muffins. And I recognized the windowsill. It was a big fancy house that the Lord Mayor lives in, so surely he won't miss just one tray of muffins that I've borrowed for today to share with you. You know, the smell of fresh baked goods really remind me of a story. Because my Uncle Rowan is actually a very, very good baker. He makes the most delicious treats. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's multiple parts of this story, but I suppose it does help to have context of who my Uncle Rowan is. And so, me and my sister Honeycomb were playing tag. We played all throughout the forests, and we played all throughout the town, and then we decided to take our game to the next level, and we burst inside into a kitchen where Rowan had been baking 2 fresh loaves of bread, and flour went everywhere. Fairy dust went everywhere. Sneezes were had, and the vision was clouded by the flour. It was very intense. But as Rowan sneezed, achoo! He sneezed and got fairy dust and magic all over those 2 fresh baked loaves of bread. And you know, magic has very interesting properties. What happened to those loaves of bread is they toasted right up, became soft and fluffy corgi puppies. I'm sure you noticed this is a highly accurate corgi specimen. And do you see its similarity to a loaf of bread? The next time you observe a corgi in the wild, take note, it's bread. So, still in the midst of our game of tag. Oh, I was telling a story. I wasn't just rambling about corgis, but they're so cute. Honeycomb and I continued our game of tag, leapt onto the corgi's back. I leapt onto the other corgi's back, and we raced out of the kitchen, Rowan yelling after us the whole time. We didn't stop until we got to the King and Queen's palace. We were so afraid of Rowan getting upset with us for ruining his bread. Well, we named those first 2 corgis Agatha and Spud for their agility and their speed. And since we were at the Queen's palace, we decided to leave those 2 corgi puppies in her care. And I'm sure you've heard that corgis are gifts from the fairies. But did you know that they were a gift from me specifically? No regrets there. It was a fun story to tell, and well, puppies are never a bad thing. You know, little corgi, I think that you should be a guest at our tea party. There, just there. And, oh, here. I'll give you a muffin as well. Oh, is there anything you need? You're all well? That's very good. I wouldn't want to remiss my manners. You know, we were just talking about the Queen and corgis to the Queen, but the Queen of England is not actually the only queen I've ever met. No, once I even got to meet the Queen of Fairyland, Titania. My sisters and I were going to meet her and visit her in her court, and so we decided we needed to bring a very, very special gift to represent us as the fairies of the Rainbow Realm, and to show our appreciation for Titania, of course. But it had to be something perfect. It couldn't be something just red. It couldn't be something just green. It couldn't be something all purple. It couldn't be any one color. It had to represent all of the fairies, all of my sisters, giving this to her together. We looked through the forest. Lots of green things there. I liked that. But nothing that was absolutely perfect. We looked through the mortal villages, and things were very, very, very colorful, but they were also not really fit for the Queen of Fairyland. We searched and we searched and we searched, and it was starting to become very discouraging, not being able to find something perfect. Until we just returned home to our glen, and there, on a small leaf, was a caterpillar of every color of the rainbow. It turns out that this is a Cecropia caterpillar, and they really do look like this. They have red and blue and yellow and green, and it was curling up in a leaf, beginning to make its cocoon. But we convinced this caterpillar to come with us to meet the Queen as a new friend, just as much as a gift. And when we met Titania, she loved that caterpillar so much that she did decide to give it a place in her court, and when it became a Cecropia moth later, even special jobs. So if you ever see a caterpillar like this, or a Cecropia moth, which are very big moths with those big eye spots, you'll know that it started out as every color of the rainbow. You know, caterpillar Would you like to be a guest at my tea party as well? I think we should invite the caterpillar to tea as well. Let's see. Right here is a spot. Oh, even more and more and more friends are joining us. This is grand. Another crumpet, you said? Oh, of course. Would you like extra fairy dust on top? I can offer you fairy dust on top. Oh, well, you're full up. You're not going to take food from me? Or any fairy for that matter? That's well. Safe journeys on your way. And don't get lost out there. Fare thee well. Until next time. Next time, take a crumpet from me. They're very good, I promise. Besides, it's not even fairy food, it's mortal food. It's from the Lord Mayor's house. Taking it from a fae. Oh, I'm rambling now. I understand. Have a good day and ta.
Thank you so much, Mint. That was amazing. Thank you for joining us today. That is so good to hear from you. And wow, I will definitely be checking you out. As I mentioned earlier, I'm sure you saw on the side there. Her link is Kofi at Undine Designs is her username. So please go over, show a little bit of love and appreciation. And I've been hearing that you actually have some comments and questions, and I appreciate that so much. I've heard that somebody's dyeing their hair red, so go you. Be careful. Stay away from the bangs. I've been warned. The spirits say, be careful with the bangs. And, we're going to go. Yes. So Monica, go ahead. Has a question. What is my favorite divination item? Um, Honestly, my favorite divination item is the one that we started talking off with the first. It's the runes. I actually bought my rune set from somebody online, which was a little odd to me, but uh, a friend of mine recommended them, and they use reclaimed bones and antlers that are found up in the Idaho, Oregon region of the world, and they turn those into divination items. And my runestones have become quite uh, strongly connected with me. I carry them a lot of places I go. Um, I always will use my tarot decks, though. I usually have one of those stuck around somewhere because I collect a lot of them. So hopefully that answers your question, Monica. But my runestones are probably my favorite divination item. So the Viking is kind of a misunderstanding. They are from the Norse, and Viking is not something that they are. They are the Viking was what they would do when they would go out raiding. The Norse people would call it going a Viking. And so when they would go out and raid other villages and other settlements, they were going out and a Viking. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, they are technically Viking runes. I prefer to use the more anthropologically correct Norse for the Scandinavian peoples, which are the people of northern Germany and then the Scandinavian peninsula, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. So, Marvin, yes, they are technically Viking runes. I got started reading tarot way back, many years ago, like quarter of a century ago. Um, some people I knew were doing it. It seemed like an interesting thing to do. It was an easy way to find people to hang out with who didn't think I was the weird kid. Uh, And so I started that, and then was kind of a hobby for me that's just stuck. And currently, I read tarot. 3 or 4 years ago, I added in runes, and the next thing that I am starting with is palm reading. I am trying to add that to my arsenal. So come visit me at fair, and we'll see what I've learned, uh, along with playing guitar, because I'm trying to learn how to do that too. So thank you for the questions. These are great, and hopefully you've got some more questions to come rolling in. Honestly, no, I've not had that. That would be an interesting conversation to have with someone. Um, Professor Trelawney had some interesting takes on it. Honestly, tea leaf reading is something that's uh, got a long and storied history and is very interesting. As a very poor half Brit, I don't drink a lot of tea, so I don't have a lot of tea leaves. Also, I know how to use a strainer so the tea leaves don't end up in my mug. Um, but yes, they have a long and storied history. The tea leaves actually tend to go back to the Victorian era, when a lot of parlor games were going along. Games were how you socialized, and that's kind of where that came from. So I hope that answers that a little bit, Jeremy. Um, and always feel free to hit me up. I love discussing Harry Potter. Hmm. Well, let's see. How to find balance. Well, you have just pulling 3 runestones real fast. Um, so the 3 runestones that we have, see if we can show these up. We have, uh, yeah, that's a giant M. That stands for Manas. So that's mankind. We have 2 carrots kind of by themselves, if you know what the carrot is. That stands for Yera, and that's the basis of our modern word year. And then we have Tiwaz, and Tiwaz is a giant arrow pointing up and stands for um, the Norse god of war. So what I would say, Monica, is you've got to make some mental adjustments. Just kind of look within yourself. You've removed what you don't like. Um, Remember, you're going to get back what you put out. So um, kind of put positive stuff out to get positive stuff back, and things are going to be successful for you. So, Monica, I kind of hope that that works for you and kind of gives you some direction to go. But focus on the positive, and good things are going to come to you. So, oh, the easiest layout, tarot card layout for me, actually comes from the deck that I've got sitting right here. This is the Llewellyn. It's called the Llewellyn deck, and it's called the Lou spread. Lou was um, the Welsh god, if you will, of sun. And it's a 5 card layout. It starts with a card in the middle representing, so you would representing the sun. To the left of that, you place a card that represents the dawn. Above the middle card, you place a card that is the noon. Then next to the right of the middle card, you place a card representing the dusk, and at the bottom you place a card representing the midnight. And the cycle of that takes you through the dawn or the sun is the hidden aspects of the card of the situation, the question being asked coming to light. The next card, the dawn, is the situation at hand. The noon is the message that you need to listen to. The dusk is the help you're going to receive, the things you need to pay attention to help you. And then the midnight is the ultimate resolution of the the question at hand. And that to me is the perfect balance between too little information, which is a 1 or 3 card spread. Um, those are very much yes or no kind of questions. And then the more elaborate 7, 8, 9, 10 cards, the famous 10 card spread everybody knows is the Celtic Cross, which kind of takes that middle five cards that I've talked about, and then adds 5 more cards, 4 more cards along the side, and a cross over the center card. Um, and for me, when I read, I generally can spend about 3 to 5 minutes per card. So a Celtic Cross reading for me is about a 25 to 30 minute read. It was amazing when we started doing readings at fairs. Everybody wanted a Celtic Cross. Everybody wanted a Celtic Cross. And then we put how much time you would be investing next to the price on our little price sheet. And amazingly, nobody wanted a Celtic Cross once they realized that they were going to have to listen to me talk for about 25 to 30 minutes. Everybody started to go down to the 5 card reading, which is more of about a 15-minute investment and enough time to sit between 2 acts and then catch up and go find a good place to sit at somebody else's stage.
I just wanted to pop in here again because apparently people haven't been able to hear me this entire time.
Oh.
And I just want to let people know that Bob was not just talking to himself, pausing for long periods of time, and then just talking to himself. There was someone talking to him. But I'm going to let you get back to it. We will have time for more questions for the Mystic Bob later in the show, so make sure to get them in the chat and I'll give them to him. Take it away, Bob.
Well, thank you so much for your questions. Yes, our lovely hosts are reading the questions to me. So in the very, very near future, we have got coming up Alexander James Adams, who I have had the pleasure of seeing in several different venues. He is an incredible performer. He's a member of one of my favorite bands, Tricky Pixie. There's going to be a whole host of links for you to go visit him. He's got Patreon. He's got all sorts of different things that you can go visit him. I encourage you, buy his albums. You will never go wrong buying one of these albums. He is a very fey tinged performer, and you are going to be treated to probably one of the most amazing performances you've ever heard in your life. I am always delighted and entranced by hearing all these performers, but this one has a special place in my heart. So please put your hands together and welcome him to the stage.
My lords and ladies, welcome to our magical virtual Renaissance Fair. I'm Alexander James Adams, the fairy tale minstrel, and I suspect that perchance there are a few of you that have perhaps never seen me before. So I will probably be performing some of my more traditional pieces, which are original for me, but traditional for my show, if that makes any sense. To be properly introducing myself, I am the fairy tale minstrel. And not just because I sing songs about fairy tales, but because at one point I was in the land of fairy for a long time. You see, fairies are immortal creatures. They have no children of their own, so they steal human babies and replace them with one of their own. So you don't get the day off with an empty basket and nothing to do except enjoy the fair. No, they take one of their own kind, shrink it down, plump it up, make it look like your baby. But it isn't. It's an imp. It's a goblin. It's a changeling. You don't want to be keeping a changeling. No. They grow up to be 5'9", red hair, blue eyes, become minstrels. It's quite scary. But But alas, my mother, when I was but a wee little bairn, she turned her eyes away from me but for a moment to hang the laundry. And the fairies saw me and they went, "Oh, shiny!" And they came and stole me away. So there I was in the land of Fey, when just such a changeling, red hair, blue eyes, played the fiddle, went by the mortal name of Heather Alexander, came running back into the land of Fey because she gets bored with humans. It's a redhead thing, that's what they do. And she came into the land and announced in the grandest voice possible, "Hello, everyone, here I am. I'm back from my great adventures in the land of mortals, and you absolutely must pay attention to the stories that I tell you. I am the most important thing right now in Fairyland. Pay absolutely no attention to anything else, including the Fairy Queen herself. I am the most important thing here." Right in front of Her Majesty, the Queen. It's a redhead thing. That's what they do. Well, the Queen was unamused, shall we say. There was a confrontation and a discussion, and a duel was proposed between this changeling, fiddling child and the Fairy Queen herself. The Queen turns to me and she said, "Boy, go fetch me the fiddles." I said, "Yes'm." And I ran back into the deep, dank depths of the Kunuknashi. That's what we call a fairy hill. And I found the fiddles, and I cleaned them off, and I tuned up their strings, and I tightened their bows, and I presented them to the two duelists. Well, the music started, as you might think, sweet, gentle, pretty, and then it changed, and it twisted, and snarled, and bit, and snarked. It's a redhead thing. That's what they do. And before we know it, cacophony has filled the entire Kunuknashi, ready to bring the very dirt roof down upon our heads. And before we can go out screaming, "Help, help, they've got fiddles and they won't stop playing," the music stopped. And we were left with naught but silence. And it was left to us to choose who was going to be the winner of this duel. Well, we all know who that's going to be because it's a redhead thing. That's what they do. And with a na-na-na, off she went, back to the land of mortals until she got bored again. Well, I watched this happen. Not once, but several times this happened. And after a while I noticed the Fairy Queen was not that good of a fiddler. And I thought perhaps if the leprechauns taught me a few tricks, maybe I could win my freedom from the land of Fey. So this is my story of how I escaped and became the fairy tale minstrel that you see before you. I call this song He of the She, but you have something similar, I believe. A devil goes down to Limerick or something like that. By winter's light on solstice night I watched the wild hunt go. With silver bells and savage yells my frozen heart laid low. I watched them ride to the mortal side, but I never tried to leave. I'd been self-banned at Fairyland, forever there to grieve. The hunting horn and the sun reborn called them from human ground. The Fairy Queen caused quite a scene with the artifact she'd found. A little wooden fiddle that she stole from mortal man. She played with glee so perfectly as only fairies can. That simple song before too long made my whole body shake. For deep inside, no more to hide, my soul is now awake. The fairy chain that bound my pain was shattered by a tune. My frozen heart would break apart, I had to get out soon. Be it carved from out the finest wood, strung with silver string. Only mortal trust the fairy dust can make a fiddle sing. Then suddenly Her Majesty gazed at me cold and hard. I'd like to know where you would go, my humble hapless bard. The world out there is cruel to bear, but if you needs be free, prove that you can, my mortal man, play better than the she. Her challenge played, all bets were laid. She beckoned unto me. I took the little fiddle and I held it tenderly, remembering the painful thing from which I'd run away. I made a choice with this new voice to face it here today. My heart's refrain had cured my pain, and the queen said unto me, your inner fear has held you here. Now, my lad, you're free. This fiddling pride I'll lay aside, it's brought me little joy. I lost one world to a red-haired girl, and now to you, my boy. Be it carved from out the finest wood, strung with silver string, only mortal trust the fairy dust can make a fiddle sing. It's carved from out the finest wood, strung with silver string, but only mortal trust the fairy dust can make my fiddle sing. Yeah, well, about that. That happens sometimes. All right, well, let's see. Fairy tales. I should probably start with one, should I not? This one's one of my favorites. Now, the thing about fairy tales you have to understand is, if you look at it closely, you'll notice that the hero in the story does these things, and if you think about them, they're really not actually that heroic. A lot of them are rather downright felonious, if not criminal. Case in point, this particular favorite fairy tale of mine, the original fairy tale, the first thing this hero does is con his master out of the only thing his master owns, a pair of boots. He takes those boots and he goes out into the king's forest and he poaches the king's rabbit and the king's goose. Well, that's crime number 2. Then he takes these poached animals and goes to the king. And he presents himself to the king. They let him in, of course, because he has boots on. He must be very fancy if you have boots. And he goes into the king and he says, "Oh, your majesty, your majesty, oh, these would not be poached animals. No, no, these are the finest gifts from my master, the Marquis de Carabas." The king thinks to himself, "I don't remember any Marquis de Carabas, but you're a very fancy cat, and you have very fancy boots. And, well, these are very nice fat rabbits and geese, so, all right, thank you very much, and give your master these 7 gold coins." To which Puss puts them in his boots, and he walks out from the castle. He's not done yet. No, he takes the long way home. And as he's walking through the fields of corn and wheat and beautiful herds of flocks of sheep, he asks the peasants that are working. They all have their heads down. They all look trodden and thin and wan. And he's like, "Are you all right? Who do you work for? These fields and everything, they're so beautiful. Who do you work for?" And the servants are like, "Oh, please, oh, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. We have to work for the mean old ogre down at the end of the street, and he beats us and he eats our children, and we have to do what he says." And Puss looks at them. "You have scythes and pitchforks and knives, and there's hundreds and hundreds of you, and you can't take one single ogre? You're pathetic. I tell you what, next time somebody asks you who you work for, you tell them you work for the Marquis de Carabas, because if you don't, I'm coming back here and slicing you and your family into 5,000 little pieces for my master's table. Are we clear?" That's terrorism. But Puss still isn't done. No. Puss goes straight to that ogre. He knocks on the ogre's door. And the ogre opens up the door. What do you want?" Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I have the wrong home. I was looking for a great, powerful, magical ogre, and you're just a big, stinky ogre. My mistake. Didn't mean to bother you. Excuse me. I'll be on my way. Wait. I'm magical. Really? What can you do that's magical? Oh, I can turn myself into things. Let me see. So, the ogre concentrates, and he wrinkles up his face, and he gets all bright red, and turns himself into this great big tiger, which growls and roars at poor little Puss, and Puss is like, "Oh my, oh dear, what a terribly terrifying tiger," and runs through the tiger's feet into the tiger's mansion, and quivers under the table. Well, the ogre's so pleased with himself, he thinks he's done a number on the cat, and he starts laughing and turns himself back into the ogre that he was. And Puss comes back out, and he says, "Well, you know, all right, I'll grant you, that was pretty good. It was pretty good. You turned yourself into a big, stinky tiger, and I think that's your weakness." "What do you mean, weakness?" "Well, you're a big, stinky ogre, and that was a big, stinky tiger. I don't think you can turn yourself into something small and sweet-smelling. I don't know, like a little mouse." Well, the ogre turned himself into a sweet-smelling little mouse, and Puss was on him and ate him whole. I do believe that's murder. But Puss is the hero of the story. And the reason that he's the hero is because people do understand, sometimes, when all you have is a set of boots, an empty sack, and your wit. Wit means whatever it takes. So you got the raw end of the deal. It's the heart, not the head, that determines what's real. If you're stuck in your life where you don't want to stay, open up, light your heart, and then make your own way. Locked inside, working hard is for some. Tell you now that I never will be that same one. Gentle breeze and the wide, ever beckoning road makes for stories from which all great legends are told. Give me tall boots and let me roam free. I can make you the master of your destiny. Empty wits about me, I will bring home the pleasures of life, so the whole world can see. With my boots I am free. Some folk think they must follow the rules. Tell you now that there are many different schools. We should not be controlled by the whims of our fate, and I think that it's foolish to sit around and wait. Give me tolerance and let me roam free. I can make you the master of your destiny. Empty bag in my wits about me, I will bring home the pleasures of life, so the whole world can see. I am free. With these boots I am free. I can make something real out of my fantasy. Inspiration's the key that I'll use to create what I want my own fate now to be. These boots I can do many things. Talk to commoners, jacks, queens, and high lofty kings. Kick a bad guy right out of his big shiny house. 'Cause in my eyes, he's only a little fat mouse. Give me tolerance and let me roam free. I can make you the master of your destiny. Empty bag in my wits about me, I will bring home the pleasures of life, so the whole world can see. With my boots I am free. My boots I am free. With these boots I am free. Puss in Boots will walk free. So there you go. That's a little fairy tale for you. The next tune is not a fairy tale. It's a true story. It's a true story about a troll named Carl. Now, Carl loved fairs, much as this one. And he would find there's always a bridge somewhere. And he would find that bridge because that's what trolls like best. And he would hide under the bridge. And he would wait as the parents and the children came crossing across the bridge. And then just as they were about to get off the bridge, he'd jump out and terrorize them. But he would try not to scare the children, just the parents, because it was so much more fun. Well, sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes they happen. And if they did, he had a backup plan. He had a bag of candy, which, with permission from the parents, he would offer the child a piece of candy, and he would have the boys give him a good stout punch on the shoulder so he knew they were good warriors. And he would ask the girls to give him a kiss on the cheek so he knew he was forgiven for scaring them so badly. Well, one day, Carl the Troll came by my show. I was up there on the stage, I was performing, and he comes over and he says, "Oh, I want to play with you." And I said, "Carl, I didn't know you could play a musical instrument." "Oh yes, I've got a great musical instrument." "What would you play, Carl?" "Hammer dulcimer." And he holds up this bashed piece of wood with strings on it and a real mallet. And he said, "You want me to show you?" And I'm like, no, wait, Carl. Before you do that, I'm sure there's something, I'm sure you're a fabulous musician, but there must be something, there's something you do much better than that. What is that? It has something to do with sharp, pointy things. "Oh, yes, battle!" And off he goes. Well, that night he found such a battle. And he went into that battle with great grandeur. And at the end of the day, the sun sets its blood-red cast upon that battlefield. And there is Carl the Troll standing atop a huge pile of conquered enemies with a double-headed silver axe in his hand, flashing it above his head into the sky and laughing and saying, "Ha ha, I'm the last one standing. I'm Carl the Troll. I win, nanny, nanny, nanny." And that flashing axe catches the eye, the one eye of of the storm god Odin. And Odin looked down upon this battlefield, and he saw the ruin and the horrors of war, and the dead bodies and the carnage, and his heart was warmed by this sight. He said, "What a magnificent warriors! Valkyrie, bring me the troll." And with that, the Valkyries came down that night, and they caught Karl the troll, they snatched him up, and they took him to Valhalla, which is where he resides to this very day, under the Rainbow Bridge, terrorizing the Stormfather himself. There's a troll in Valhalla neath the bright Rainbow Bridge. He jumps out and scares you if you're close to the ridge. Just give him a kiss or a fierce fighting grin. He'll offer you treats and then welcome you in to Valhalla, where the Valkyrie sings, where the air horns are full and the horses have wings. Valhalla, it's a warrior's goal to fight fiercely, lovelessly, and pay off the troll. He's the hero of children and the bane of king's men. He breaks regulations again and again. If you're weak-willed or lazy, or your heart is not true, then you meet with his axe, and you'll never get through. The Valhalla, where the Valkyrie sings, where the air horns are full and the horses have wings. Valhalla, it's a warrior's goal to fight fiercely, lovelessly, and pay off the troll. When the music starts up and the Stormfather sings, the troll gets his dulcimer covered in strings, which he beats with a hammer till the wood flies apart. Oh, the sound isn't pretty, but it comes from the heart. Of Valhalla, where the Valkyrie sings, where the earlorns are full and the horses have wings. Valhalla, it's a warrior's goal to fight fiercely, lovelessly, and pay off the troll. He challenges scoundrels, he'll terrorize thieves, he'll take down the peddlers of poisonous leaves. He can't fly in with gold, or with jewels, or with pearls, but I hear he's a thing for those blonde, pretty girls in Valhalla. Valhalla. Whoa. Live your life to its fullest till your time is at hand, and the Valkyrie carries you far from this land. Let your foes, friends, and lovers be many and great, so when you meet the troll, he will open the gate to Valhalla, where the Valkyrie sings, where the earlorns are full and the horses have wings. Valhalla, it's a warrior's goal to fight fiercely, lovelessly, and pay off the troll in Valhalla, where the Valkyrie sings, where the earlorns are full and the horses have wings. Valhalla, it's a warrior's goal to fight fiercely, lovelessly, and pay off the troll. There's a troll in Valhalla. Ladies, if you walk in the forests of the wild woods and you hear a flute, don't follow it. He is out there. And if you follow him, you may never get home again. I am a creature of the wood, forsaken in my solitude. My song is pleasure and is pain. My song can drive a man insane. So come with me, my pipes I'll play, and we will dance till break of day. I shall be thy lover. I've been on life time began. Not beast, not God, and yet not man. I am the music and the dance. I am the piper who enchants. Surah's soft eyes to mortal kind. My pipe shall play within thy mind. I shall be thy lover. Come unto me, my beauteous maid. I'll lead thee to live and play. Thou shalt be happy and be free. When I play, thou wilt dance for me. We'll feast on fruit fresh from the vine, and I will sample the fruits of thy eye. I shall be thy lover. Sweet love, I'll make for thee alone, and show thee sights before unknown. I'll be thy master and thy friend, for I'm the gold and rainbows, and I am the beast within all man. I am the rhyme past mortal can. I shall be thy lover. Pipes before man's dawn, seen maidens ripe turn pale, wan, taught man the art of song and dance, yet had to part from mortal clans. I must return to silent dells. No fire burns, natured through heather wade, nothing see things man has forbade. Our souls entwined and unafraid. I shall be thy lover. My solitude, my song is pleasure and is pain. My song can arrive a man insane. So come with me, my pipes I'll play, and we will dance till break of day. I shall be thy lover. We'll try one more. All right. We'll do one song for you, one more for you. This is a famous one. You may have heard this at many other Ren fairs. You may have seen it on the internet, that magical land. And I'll let you know that many have thought it was traditional. It is not traditional, it is mine. But I don't normally do this with this kind of an audience, but I have faith in you. If you have faith in me, it will work out. And I will trust that I will be hearing you yelling the last line of every verse in this song, because it's pathetic if it's just me by myself. This is usually done in pubs and huge gatherings, but we're here and we're doing it now. And I'm going to trust that if I listen carefully, I will be able to hear you screaming at the top of your lungs these very words. How many of them can we make die? Axes flash, broadswords swing, shining armors, piercing ring. Horses run with a polished shield, fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight man, blood red road, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry, how many of them can we make die? I can't hear you. Follow orders as you're told, make their yellow blood run cold. Fight until you die or drop. A force like ours is hard to stop. Close your mind to stress and pain. Fight till you're no longer sane. Let not one damn car pass by. How many of them can we make die? I think I almost heard you there. That's pretty good. Guard your women and children well. Send these bastards back to hell. You'll teach them the ways of a war. They won't come here anymore. Use your shield and use your head. Fight till everyone is dead. Raise the flag up to the sky. How many of them can we make die? Okay, we're gonna sneak up on them. Shh. Ever tried to sneak in chainmail? It's really hard. Dawn is broke, the time has come. Move your feet to a marching drum. We'll win the war, pay the toll. Fight as one in heart and soul. Midnight mare and blood red roan. Fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? Axes flash, broadswords swing, shining armors, piercing a ring. Horses run, polished shield. Fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight mare, blood red roan. Fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn, call the cry. How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die? Two more, build them up. How many of them can we make die? One more, let me hear ya. I think I actually heard you. Good job. Thank you, my lords and ladies. I am Alexander James Adams, fairy tale minstrel. Perhaps you can find me on the magical world of the internet. I will give you an incantation. It's called Googling. And if you Google Alexander James Adams, you will find me. Or you can find me at fairytaleminstrel.com. Otherwise, I will see you upon the road at some point. Behave yourselves, wash your hands, and be polite, and bow to your neighbor. Thank you and good night.
Welcome back. Oh my goodness, was that not an amazing performance? We are so blessed to have all these amazing creators and artists with us here today. As you saw, he just put up his links. To me, they were off to my left here. He put up his links, so please visit, put something in the virtual hat. As I said, you cannot go wrong with any of the albums. I own many of them, and they are great. So I understand that we had somebody ask a question a while back, and they wanted to know what do fairies eat at restaurants? And that's a very interesting question. Fairies, especially we fairies, we fairies, like to eat things like berries and honey and milk, but they also enjoy their vegetables. And remember, in this time of plague, they wash their hands copiously to make sure that they're being clean. And they are eating all their food, and they are listening to their parents, and they are being good little fairies, and they do all those things because they want to grow up and be big and strong fairies. So hopefully that answers your question, you little wee fairy there. So, and today, if you'd like to put any money, if I tickle your fancy at all, and I'm putting any money in your hat, um, there's a memorial fund for the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival, which is my home fair. And if you wouldn't mind tipping a little bit towards the memorial fund, because we've lost several people lately, and over the years we're trying to put together a memorial garden for everybody. So, way to bring everybody down there, but that's kind of, if you feel the urge to put something in my hat, that's what I would appreciate. Um, Off the top of my head, I don't have that link, but I will get that for you because there will be more breaks. CentralMoRenfest.net is that. CentralMoRenfest.net. So if you feel the urge to do some of that, that would be great. Um, so hopefully you've got those questions fermenting. I know our astounding performers kind of rock you off your feet a little bit. They knocked my socks off, let me tell you. And it's so much fun to get to see all these people that normally you wouldn't get to see, but they can come together through this mystic art form and create magic. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the everyday magic. Um, Earlier we had a question about what sort of tarot layouts. You know, there are hundreds of different ones, and there are thousands of different ways to do things. And I'm gonna reference Fleetwood Mac here, and you got to go your own way. You got to do your own thing. You got to find that what works for you. That is a link that has always really worked for me. You listen to other people, you take advice, but at the end of the day, you have to do what works for you and make you feel good. So, people asked about my start. Um, I started reading back in college, and then uh, through happenstance, there was an opening for a tarot reader. They needed one because they felt that every fair needs to have a tarot reader, and I was told that they needed it, and so I started reading at Central Missouri Renaissance Festival, and now here you see what happens. This is, I mean, magic happens, and so please keep those questions coming in. Please keep those donations coming in. Please keep the enjoyment going in. Please leave comments telling people that you're enjoying stuff, because people need to be able to see that. People need to be able to hear that. One of the hardest things of doing something like this is the lack of feedback from people. You're talking into the ether, and you're just hoping that it's being received well. And even a positive word means a lot to all of these performers and guests and artists and craftsmen. Speaking of craftspeople, we've got some people coming up here in the near future. They are Storm Art Glass, and they work with their hands, and they work amazingly to create glass objects. And that, to me, is fascinating. You take these very simple, basic elements, and you turn them into these beautiful, beautiful works of art. And they are going to come visit us, and they're going to talk about it. And I really hope that this is something that's not only educational, informative, but fun, because this is the kind of thing that when I go to fairs that I look for. I not only look for the musicians and the performers and the magicians and all those stagecraft, but I look for these demonstrations because these people have spent literally years honing their craft and becoming experts at things that are kind of not used anymore in this society. And they are going to be on now. So please sit back, relax, drink some water, and welcome Storm Art Glass.
Recording. Hi, my name is Greg Bowen, and I'm with Storm Art Glass. Today I'm going to be doing a little demonstration for you. This is a flower enclosure. And we have several of these for sale, lots of different options, lots of different colors. So I started out with a gather, and I've gone into this frit right here, which is small chunks of colored glass. So I've got a little bit of that on the end of my rod, and I've just melted it in. So now I'm going to fume just a little bit of silver, and on the end of this rod there's a little tiny chunk, and I'm going to get that so hot that it will literally vaporize and stick to the warm glass. Cover out if you want. So now we've got a little bit of silver particles right here on the end.
We're going again.
So now I'm going to burn off the excess silver, the stuff that's not stuck to the surface. Going to add a few electrons to it with a high carbon flame. And now the silver is attached to the piece.
Okay, literally do not move the piece more than like an inch.
Yeah. So now I'm going to draw on the stamen of the flower. And then the petals. And I'm using a small clear glass rod to draw on my detail. It's kind of like drawing with a pencil. A little bit of back and forth, give it a little bit of movement, a little bit of depth. I want to cover this entire front surface so that we've got lots of petals. So now we've got all of our design. Now it's time to start working the piece. I'm going to melt in all of those little clear rods, and as they flow they will push into the clear mass and project up into the ball. Lots of pressing. Get ready to stop.
Recording.
Yeah. Completed.
Start doing it.
Are you recording?
Yep.
Kill him. Stop it. I'm gonna record. So I've finished adding all of my design to my piece, and I've got a nice round shape now, but I need it to be perfectly round. So I'm going to go into this marble mold down. CNC milled to be as close to round as humanly possible. And it'll give us a really nice sphere. Just a couple of turns in there. And we've got most of our shape already done. Stop.
Go.
And record. So now that I've got a nice round shape, I'm going to add an accent color to the back. That's this really nice blue sparkly color. Heavy blue leprechaun. I get my color rod hot, and then I begin to draw. You'll notice that my circle is a little offset And that's because the flower right this second is straight up and down, but I want it at a little bit of an angle so that you see more of the stem, so that you get more of that kind of view of it. I'll melt this in, go back into the marble mold, and we'll be ready to take it off and round out the other end. And stop. It's all lumpy and funky. Takes an accident picture of me, like.
And we're going.
So now I've finished with the bottom. We're nice and round, we've got a good shape, color's all on there. Now it's time to transfer it. Now this temporary handle is called a punti, or a pontile, as the Italians say. Now my piece is just a little bit warm, but the rod is very, very molten. And so when I barely stick it to it, I'm not welding the piece on. It's just kind of grabbing it like a piece of chewing gum on the end of a stick. And it will be a temporary handle so that I can finish the lens of the piece and then get ready for a hook. So instead of cutting the glass or breaking it, I'm going to fire cut it. I'm going to allow the two pieces to melt away from each other and then trim off the excess. We don't need that little extra bit on the end. It would add too much mass to our piece and then it wouldn't be round. Now again, I'm going to go into the marble mold and get a nice shape, and the next time you see it, we'll be almost finished. Stop. And so there's our lens. You know, great magnification of the flower. Got lots of color, lots of depth. Now right now it's only glowing orange because it's so hot. It's actually a couple of different blues, and then it's fumed with silver, which will be kind of a white. And as it cools, you can start to see the colors begin to pop out. Everybody loves cobalt. And off. Now we need to put a hook on it so that this can become a pendant. I'm going to heat the spot that I want this rod to weld to attach to. Get them both nice and molten, and then melt in that seam. This will give it a nice, strong, durable hook. I really like to make my work as durable as possible, because I love when people come back to me years later and say, hey, I've still got that piece from you. It's all about quality for us. Now hopefully this temporary handle here will just break off. And we've got a little sharp spot there. So I need to burn that in just a little. We're a little off center here because that was nice and toasty hot. So I'm going to use gravity as a tool. Use the marver to help me straighten a bit. And now we're back on center. Now I need to use another punty, but it was back here to start with, so I need it to be straight in line with this piece, and that'll make putting a hook on it that much easier. Again, I heat both pieces, this one just warm, and this one nice and molten. Barely tacked to it. As that sets up, I've got time to preheat the mass of glass that I need to put my hook on it. The more even the heat, the more even the stretch. Now at this point, working with glass is like playing with warm honey on a spoon. You have to continue to turn it or else it'll fall off center. It can drip off, but we're not going to get anywhere near that hot. Get a nice even heat. Almost ready for the hook. Get the back of the piece to the top and the face of the piece towards the bench. Stretch. Very slowly heat where I want it to move. Going to melt off this handle again. And there we've got most of our loop. Now at this point I've got a little bit of wiggle room. I can really zero in on where I want it to stick. Press it to the glass. Get a nice attachment. Like I said, nice and strong. I have to make sure and melt in that seam. If there's a line in there, a crease, that will break this piece later on and would make that hook very fragile. And that's really not what we want. I'm a little off center, so I'll straighten it up some. Now I'm going to allow it to condense back down and become thicker. Very slow, very controlled, little flashes of heat. And now we're nice and thick. Do the one last check. And now it's time to take it off of this handle again. Going to flash the putty just a little bit with heat while I warm up the tool. If I put cold steel on hot glass, it can chill it too fast and it can break it. So again, we've got a little sharp spot. All I need to do is just melt that in real quick. Has to be hot enough so that it can flow and smooth in on its own. I don't want to have to touch it with another tool. Again, using gravity, letting it flow this way and that. And our putty mark is gone. Now we are just completely finished. And as this cools down, you can start to see more of the color starting to show. And I'll take it over to the kiln and put it in there. That's at 1050 degrees. And it'll stay in there overnight. Stop.
So these are the products that we make here at Storm Art Glass. We've got a huge variety of pendants, lavender diffusers, wine bottle stoppers, and just really fun and interesting pieces. We even have Viking drinking horn shot glasses, working on sets. I have a lot of fun making marbles. These are planets. These particular ones are uninhabited, but you can see the continents and the oceans and even the core of the planet. We can make hats special order. These were special order cowboy hats. I will be making more fair related ones, pirate hats, lord and lady hats, whatever somebody would like. We have these flowers. These are fume implosion. This is very similar to what I just made. Different colored ones. The rainbow one's really fun. The neuron design is really intricate. So much going on inside of these. We have our ocean line, our undersea paradise. Little turtles hanging around with jellyfish and coral. Then we get into our kraken tentacles. And if you look, a quarter is 1 inch, so that can tell you how big they are. We have our jellyfish. These are a lot of fun. And then we get into our dragon's eyes. Great for fair. This one's massive. Our blades. And then on into our spells. Now each spell comes with its own little placard so that you know what it does. They've got a little bit of humor in there. The dragon's teeth. Oh, I love those. And these are hourglasses. Got about 2 seconds worth of sand in there. We have our skulls. Description on this one's fun. It's like being Chuck Norris. Now, living in Grand Junction, where we are, there's a lot of really amazing lavender around. There's a great description of that. Sprigs and Sprouts is our local distributor for that. It's amazing stuff. Now, 1 drop of lavender in any of these hollow pieces, and as it evaporates throughout the day, you get the benefits of
Not smelling like an ox.
of the essential oils. We even have these little frog guys sitting on a few of them. Very cute. Then we move on into our wine stoppers. We've got the anemone and our fumed flowers. We have fun marble ones with great spirals in them. The colored flowers are especially nice. And then just nice big marbles. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. If you have any questions on pieces or prices, please get a hold of us through Facebook Messenger. Everything that you see here today is for sale, but I do also make special order pieces all the time. We've been doing this for quite a while, so we can pull off a lot of fun and interesting things. So have a wonderful day, and thank you very much.
Hello, that was amazing. Those fine products that they were just showing you, they will be available at stormartglass.com. Go visit their website. Go buy stuff from them. Those things were amazing. Please, please patron them. Patronize sounds bad, but you want to buy things from them. Make sure that they can stay afloat and come see you at your local Ren Fair. Ask for them by name. So that was amazing. And in a few minutes, we are going to have some more performers. They are dancers. and they're going to showcase some different kinds of dance, and that's going to be so much fun because I actually know these people and they're amazing. Now, it's going to be Alicia Ferrara, the Navas Sands Dance Troupe, and the Shamrock Dancers. We're going to have some exhibitions of different styles of dance, and they do amazing things. They completely change how they do their styles, and even though you'll see some of the same people dancing, they change completely how their style of dance is. And to immerse yourself that completely into that dance style is just incredible. And the ability to perform like that requires a very unique mindset. And so we are very lucky to have them here to show us how they do things and to uh, perform for us. And you know, they're going to have links up. You're going to be able to go to their Patreon, and the Patreon for them is as Dance Salad. See, and they are putting out amazing things every month. You can see on the various pages for these dancers. You can go visit them. They are on Facebook, and you will be able to see some instructional videos, some performance videos, and generally during this time of plague, they are keeping things fun, and that is what we need right now. Something to remind us that the world is going to be okay, and that there are educational and entertaining things out there. And that's what this whole event has been about. Why we are here today is to not just entertain you, but to remind you that we're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And at some point, the Mystic Bob is going to be able to go out and hug people. And he's going to be able to do that again because he misses that. And I've been told I give good hugs. Find me at CMRF. You'll find out. Unless I'm performing, in which case it gets a little weird for you to interrupt me on stage. But hey, I've dealt with weirder things. So, you know, in a few minutes here, I want you to be thinking of, look at how they move, look at how they put the movements together. They're going to interlink these movements. And so it's going to be just, I don't know, it's going to be incredible. And then after them, we're going to have another talented performer. And that is, well, we are blessed to have that. And that is going to be the Queen Blossom Story Time. And they are going to be raising money for the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. So get your checkbooks out and get ready to do that too, because that's a very important thing to remember. Because despite everything else that's going on in the world, we still need to be looking at these other ongoing projects. So please remember that, you know, treat this like you would a day at fair. Put some money in the hat. Think about things. You know, those links are going to be there. When this is done, the video is going to be available. You can go back. First off, you can go back and revisit it. Hey, that's awesome. Second, you'll be able to catch some of those links a little bit because maybe you were paying a bit more attention to the performer than you were donating money. Don't forget, you can donate money after the performance is done. So come back, visit us, have a chat. Remember, we're here for you just like you're here for us, and we appreciate that. Just trying to keep things a little happy, a little fun, and we are going to be coming up for the dancers coming on stage in just a moment here. So everybody, please put your hands together. I know you're in your living rooms. Put your hands together, make a little bit of noise, and watch the dancers, the Navas Sands dancers, the Shamrock dancers, and Alicia. So everybody put your hands together because here they come. Wow, was that not incredible? Again, remember Patreon, Dance Salad. Please go support them because they do amazing things. And that little dance studio is just taking off with leaps and bounds, and they are doing incredible things. So, coming up here in just a couple of minutes, we are going to have the Queen Blossom story time. And I want to remind you uh, that they are raising money for the Alzheimer's Foundation. Uh, and so please feel free to, when this is done, pop over and give some money to that. Also, keep your questions coming in. There's going to be a space here where I can do a few short readings and answer some questions. And it's going to be question time with the Mystic Bob. And feel free to bring those in, and I will do my best to answer your questions and reveal the mysteries of life to you. It's 42, by the way. So please feel free to put those in the comments. I get to see those. I get to answer those. And so I'm looking forward to that, a little bit of interaction for you guys. And in just a few minutes, we're going to have Queen Blossom coming up. Oh, my collar's running up. Queen Blossom coming up, and she's going to tell some stories and give us some very interesting stuff. And so any questions that you may be thinking of, feel free to pop those into the little chat. And again, give a thumbs up to our performers. Remind them that you're here. Let them know that you're enjoying things. So that's encouragement. They need that. They need to know that things are going on. Not just your financial support, but your emotional and physical support. So we appreciate that. So we're going up on the Queen Blossom Storytime. Put your hands together, sit back, and relax. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you guys for being here.
Hi, I'm Queen Blossom. I thought I'd use a little magic today to bring a little joy to your day. I'm going to read you all a story. It's called Miss Susie. It's written by Mariam Young. Pictures by Arnold Lobel. And it was copyrighted in 1964. This is Miss Susie. Miss Susie was a little gray squirrel who lived all by herself on the tip top of a tall oak tree. She liked to cook, she liked to clean, and she liked to sing while she worked. Every morning, Miss Susie made herself a bowl of acorn pudding, and as she stirred it, she sang, "Oh, I love to cook. Oh, I love to bake. I guess I'll make an acorn cake." After that, she swept the crumbs from her moss carpet and little broom she made with maple twigs, and then she dusted her firefly lamps and rinsed her acorn cups and put her whole house in order. At night, Miss Susie climbed into her bed and looked through the topmost branches at the sky. She saw a million stars, and as the wind blew gently, she rocked her to sleep, and it was very peaceful. But one day, a band of red squirrels came jumping and clattering at the foot of the tree where Miss Susie lived. They were quarrelsome fellows, and liked fighting so much they even fought amongst themselves. Miss Susie did not see them because she was in her kitchen. She did not hear them because she was singing, "I love my house, oh yes, sirree, my own little house and my own oak tree." She was putting her cake in her oven, and when she looked up, she saw a lot of strangers in her doorway. 1, 2, 3, she counted. 1, 2, 3 more, 6 red squirrels. They chased her out of her little house. They broke her broom and threw out her acorn cups, and then they ate her whole winter supply of nuts. Poor Miss Susie, she didn't know where to go, and while she stood wondering what to do, it began to rain. She scampered to the nearest tree. It was a maple standing beside an old house. She ran on the branch and dropped to the roof. The rain came down hard, and her fur was all wet. Shivering and cold, Miss Susie scrambled down the chimney of the old house and out in the hole of the chimney and into the attic. There, in this dusty, quiet attic, she saw a beautiful dollhouse. It was big enough for the whole family and dolls, and she knocked on the door. There was no answer, so she peeped inside. My, what a lovely house, thought Miss Susie. It is fit for a queen. But it needs a good housekeeper, so it's just the place for me. The flowered carpets were covered with dust, and cobwebs clung to the gold chandeliers. There was dust on the black iron stove in the kitchen, and on the little piano in the parlor. There was even dust on the china closet in the dining room, and a spiderweb on the dishes inside. Once it was cleaned, it'll be a good house for the winter, said Miss Susie to herself. And what a shame there is no one to share it with me. It is so big. So she cleaned the whole first floor. Then she went upstairs and cleaned the bedrooms. Then she climbed into the four-poster bed and fell asleep. The next morning, Susie was hungry, and she left the dollhouse to go looking for nuts and seeds. On her way to the attic window, Miss Susie saw a box. Just the thing to keep my nuts and seeds in, she thought, and opened it up. What do you think I saw inside but a band of tiny soldiers? They had been sleeping there for years. Thanks for setting us free, said the captain, and now I need a place for us to live. Oh, do come stay with me, invited Miss Susie.
Welcome back, everybody. That was great. Thank you so much, Queen Blossom, for entertaining us. I have some very exciting news here. The veil has parted, and my previous prediction that Periwinkle Twinkle the fairy, I got to remember all the words, will be joining us. And in just a little minute here, we're going to be able to join her and listen to her tell us a magical story. And she's got a Venmo, and you're going to be able to donate to her. And I encourage it because she is fabulous. So sit right back. We're going right back into another story time here. And in a few more minutes, we're going to have Judas and Magnolia come up and perform for us. So remember all of our wonderful performers today and all of their great links that you can get to through this. And I'll be back in a little bit. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And here comes Periwinkle Twinkle.
Oh, hi! My name is Fairy Periwinkle Twinkle, and guess what? I love telling stories. That's right! I have an entire tiny fairy-sized library full of my favorite fairy tales that I can't wait to read to you and share. So come join me for fairy story time. And in the meantime, join me in a little fairy dance. Hello everyone, and welcome to Storytime with Periwinkle Twinkle the Fairy. Now, I was just sitting here contemplating my magical miniature fairy library and deciding what I wanted to read for you today. And I think I have come up with the perfect book. Let's see. Yes, this is the one. This is a very important topic, very near to my heart. How to spot fairies. So let's dive in. How to spot fairies, top secret. This is, in fact, very top secret information, so be sure to keep to yourself. Fairies are everywhere, in the country, towns, and cities all across the world. They are mostly invisible to humans, except trusted ones who know how to look for them. That means you're a trusted friend because I am showing myself to you. Fairies love to sit in the treetops, hiding among the branches and leaves, so remember to look up. Very good advice. Be very quiet and listen to nature's sounds around you. In among the rustling wind and birdsong, you may hear some fairy chatter. And you know what fairy chatter sounds like? Just like this. So be sure to listen closely for the fairies chattering. Be very, very, very gentle. Bird song may also be a warning for the fairies. Birds let fairies know when humans come too close. That's right, birds are a fairy's best friend after all. Now, fairy houses are always cleverly concealed. This is true. My friend Thistle, she disguised her house in the tree trunk of an old tree. No one even knows she's there. She loves to spy on people and make mischievous tricks for them. Now, be on the lookout for hidden openings, a knot in a tree trunk, or a passageway through a cluster of leaves or bushes. Fallen petals on a woodland floor may have been used by the fairies to make their clothes. That's true. I love using leaves and petals to make new fashion for myself. Now pay attention to butterflies. Fairies fly among them, and they can lead to fairy gatherings. Oh, fairy gatherings are wonderful. We dance and we sing. Now, fairies love to decorate their homes. A pattern in a tree trunk or a pretty patch of tiny flowers may mean a fairy is living nearby. If something is missing from your house, the fairies may have borrowed it. Don't worry, they will give it back when they have finished with it. That's true, fairies are very kind and generous. Patches of moss or toadstool have magical properties and are perfect gathering places for fairies. I love gathering upon a toadstool. It's just the greatest. Nice flat surface for dancing and revelry. Now look for footsteps or fairy trails in glistening early morning dew. Berries, nutshells, or seeds dropped on the ground may be the leftovers from a fairy feast. I love seeds and nutshells. Fairies are experts at disguise. A butterfly or dragonfly you glimpse from the corner of your eye may actually be a camouflaged fairy. Earn the fairies' trust, and they may make themselves easier for you to spot. Well, I think you have earned my trust today because here I am and you're spotting me. Woodland, friends, and foes. Let's dive in, shall we? The fox. Foxes are clever and resourceful and will always help a fairy in need. But they are also very cunning and like to play tricks. Be careful they don't out-fox you. I love a good pun. Doesn't he look fun? Very mischievous. The swift. These graceful birds live up to their name, darting quickly through the sky. They often give rides to fairies who are tired or in a hurry. That's true. Sometimes the swift goes a little fast for me, so I have to get off and walk. The badger. These nighttime animals like to keep to themselves and can be grumpy, but they are brave and courageous and will defend any fairy in trouble. Oh, do you know what animals who are awake at night are called? They're nocturnal. Isn't that a fun word? Nocturnal. The owl. Fairies visit these wise, solemn birds for advice. Owls can also see in the dark, so they keep a lookout for danger and warn fairies if trouble approaches. And you know how they warn the fairy? By going, hoo, hoo, hoo. So if you've ever heard that noise, you've heard a fairy warning. The tanuki. Found among the fairies and spirits in the forests of Japan, these magical raccoon dogs can shapeshift into any animal, plant, or object. If you spot one, it will bring you good fortune. Well, of course, because they sound very magical. I've never met one myself, but I hope to. The toad. Fairies visit toads if they are ill or injured. They can magically cure all manner of ailments, but only if they are asked nicely. Well, isn't that true of most creatures? You must ask nicely if you want anything. The wasp. These cunning insects can be troublesome and unkind and have a ferocious sting that is fatal to fairies. However, with kindness, they can be befriended. I've never met a wasp I didn't like. And there's a fairy picture at the end. Decorating your fairy home. Let's dive in, shall we? Glue matchboxes together to make a tiny chest of drawers. Push split pins through the drawers to make handles. Paint or decorate your chest of drawers however you like. Oh, if it were me, I'd cover it entirely in flowers. What about you? Turn an empty jam jar upside down to make a fairy table. Add a piece of cloth to make a tablecloth and a bottle cap filled with berries for a fruit bowl. Oh, fairies love fruit. My favorite fruit is a gooseberry. What's yours? Keep carrot tops and place them in small, shallow saucers of water. Leaves will grow from the top, making beautiful fairy house plants. What a wonderful idea. Save pretty postage stamps to hang on the wall as pictures. You can also use pressed flowers, pictures from magazines, or draw your own tiny pictures to stick up. Oh, I think you should draw your own tiny pictures and use your imagination. An old pocket watch or watch with the strap taken off is a perfect clock. Remember, time passes differently in fairyland. That's true. Cotton reels on their side make stools for the fairies to sit on. Add a tiny cushion on top, as fairies love to sit and write in their notebooks. Well, that's true. I love writing in my notebook. I especially love writing about all the new friends I've made here at Storytime. We are going to learn about famous fairies. Let's dive in, shall we? Titania and Oberon, the king and queen of the fairies. This royal couple rule over fairyland with kindness and wisdom. Well, that's nice. Morgan Le Fay. This powerful enchantress is half witch, half fairy. She has the strangest and strongest magical powers in all of fairyland and appears in many human legends. She seems spicy. Tinkerbell, a mischievous fairy who mends pots and kettles. Her voice sounds like a high ringing bell, which can only be understood by those who know fairy languages. The fairy godmother. All fairies and many human children have a fairy godmother or fairy godfather who watches over them and ensures that they come to no harm. Oh, that's lovely. Have any of you met your fairy godmother or fairy godfather? The Tooth Fairy. This fairy is one of the busiest in all fairyland. When a human child loses a baby tooth, they can leave it under their pillow for the Tooth Fairy to collect. It's nice to have a useful job as a fairy, of course. Ariel. Ariel is an air spirit with the power to make humans fall in love. He is hundreds of years old and was written about by William Shakespeare, a famous playwright. Have any of you heard of William Shakespeare? The Cottingley Fairies. In 1917, 2 girls in England claimed to have taken real photos of fairies. Many grown-ups believed they were real, but others thought they were a hoax. What do you think? Well, of course they weren't a hoax. How could they be a hoax when fairies really exist? Tips and charms for trusted humans. That's you. Let's dive in, shall we? If you need to ask a fairy for a favor, leave out a thimble of honey and a small piece of cake. This should leave them feeling pleased and happy to help. Well, I must confess to having a sweet tooth, so I will absolutely come to your aid if you leave out a piece of cake for me. If you need good luck, carry a fallen oak leaf with you. Fairies love oak leaves and will send good fortune your way if you celebrate their favorite tree. That's true. You get extra points from me if you make up a little song about the oak tree. If you can't get sleep at night, put some lavender under your pillow to attract the dream fairies. These fairies will bring you sweet dreams and restful sleep. That's true. Lavender has a delicious smell and is very calming and relaxing and good for sleepy time. If you need to keep mischievous fairies out of the house, leave some primroses on the windowsill. Misbehaving fairies hate primroses, so they should stay away. You can also always ask nicely and say, "Mischievous fairies, please don't come here today." That'll do just as well. Now, if you want to spot a fairy, carry a 4-leaf clover in your pocket. These special charms can help you see fairies that would normally be invisible to humans. Well, that's a good tip. 4-leaf clovers are indeed quite magical. Now, if you're ever lucky enough to meet a fairy who offers to grant you a wish, make sure you think very carefully before making your request. Each child can only ever be granted one fairy wish. Maybe we should all think for a second about what our wish would be. I've got mine. Do you have yours? If you want to welcome fairies into your garden, make sure there are flowers in every color. Some fairies use petals to make their clothes, so they'll head to the most colorful garden. That's true. As you can see, I'm very colorful, and I love using colorful things to make clothes for myself. The end. Well, those were wonderful tips and charms, don't you think? I know I learned a lot. I hope you did too. Magical ingredients. Let's dive in, shall we? Chamomile. A plant with small white flowers, chamomile is used to bring about good luck. Tuck it into your hair or carry it in your pocket, and good fortune will follow. I don't know about you, but I always love tucking little flowers and leaves and bits of the forest I find in the ground in my pocket. It always brings me good luck. Dock leaves. The magical leaves of the dock plant can be rubbed onto nettle stings to cure them. The leaves are also said to help cure anxious thoughts. Well, that's a lovely thought. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel anxious about things and I don't know why. It's so nice to know that there's a plant in nature that can help soothe those thoughts. Rose. Carry rose petals to help strengthen friendships and bring about happiness. Fairies also use rose petals to heal bruises and sprains. And they're so pretty to look at. I also put roses in my tea sometimes. It makes it delicious and sweet. Sage. This tasty herb has special magical properties. Write a wish on a sage leaf and tuck it under your pillow. If you dream about your wish, it will come true. Oh, I think I'll be writing something on a sage leaf tonight. Lavender. The smell of lavender magically calms and soothes and can bring you pleasant dreams. Hang a bunch upside down somewhere warm and dry. I love the smell of lavender. It always calms me down and makes me feel happy inside. Rosemary. This evergreen herb has tiny blue flowers and smells delicious. It is used as a love charm, and sniffing it is said to help improve your memory. Well, I'm all for improving my memory. I have so many fun things to remember, like all the times we've spent reading delightful stories together. Honeysuckle. Sweet and refreshing honeysuckle nectar is used as fairy medicine. Each flower contains the perfect amount of delicious nectar to soothe fairy ailments. And it smells divine. I love the smell of honeysuckle. Do you have a favorite smell of a favorite flower? There are so many to choose from. The end. And that was Magical Ingredients. Rules and regulations of Fairyland. Who knew Fairyland had rules and regulations? But I bet they're fun. Let's dive in, shall we? Be kind and considerate to all inhabitants of Fairyland. Well, that's a good rule, and I think that should apply to the human world too. Never take anything from Fairyland into the human world. It will turn into dust and disappear. Magic must be used wisely. Never cast a spell that brings about unhappiness or misfortune. That's right, all of our spells are happy and should only spread joy and provide good things for people. All fairies hate litter. Keep Fairyland tidy and beautiful. Well, I think that's wonderful advice wherever you go. It's never nice to throw trash in Mother Nature, whether it's in Fairyland or the human world. Tricks can be mischievous, but never mean. Oh, I love playing mischievous tricks on my fairy friends, but yes, they are never mean. Treat all animals and insects with compassion and respect. Oh, that's a wonderful one, because all insects and animals all have personalities and hearts, and it's so nice to treat them with the same respect we treat fairies with. Always tell the truth. All fairy folk hate dishonesty. Well, that's true too. I don't like it when people tell me lies. I want to know the truth. Oh, and look, there's a beautiful drawing at the end of a lovely fairy friend. Well, I think those are wonderful rules and regulations to live your life by. What do you think? Did you have a favorite one? A guide to Fairyland. Let's dive in, shall we? I love that picture. Titania's Castle. This This magical castle is where Queen Titania lives and rules, and is also home to the fairy court. It is full of hidden passageways, secret rooms, and enchanted furniture. Have you ever lived in a place that has hidden passageways or secret rooms and enchanted furniture? I bet you have. The fairy ring. The fairies love to gather at this magical circle of toadstools for a picnic or a party. They dance under moonlight until the sun comes up. Here's a little secret. I dance in the sunlight too. Do you like to dance in the sun and the moon? The Auric Sands. These golden yellow beaches are home to the sea sprites who love to jump and dive through the foamy waves. Did you know they can disguise themselves as dolphins? So if you've ever seen a dolphin, you've actually seen a sea sprite. The Underground Ballroom. This secret underground chamber is where the grandest fairy parties and balls are held. They go on for many days and nights. Fairies do love to party. The Enchanted Pool. A magical pond where wishes are granted. Fairies love to laze on the wide lily pads in the sunshine. Ah, lily pads are just perfect for sunbathing, don't you think? The Ancient Oak. This enormous tree has stood in fairyland for thousands of years. It is full of hundreds of tiny fairy homes, hidden in the trees, roots, and bark. That's true. I make my own home in the Ancient Oak, right in between the two tip-top branches. So if you look up, you might see me in my home. The end. What a wonderful book. I hope you'll come visit Fairyland, maybe in your dreams, and you'll see all these wonderful places. Otherwise, you can just use your imagination and go there whenever you wish. I'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're enjoying our time with you. Again, that was Periwinkle Twinkle the Fairy. Please go follow her on Instagram. She has a Venmo that is Jessie Sherman 1 on Venmo. Please drop her a little bit of cash. And in just a couple of minutes, we are going to have the amazing, the talented, the beautiful Judas and Magnolia. So I need you guys to do what you need to do because these guys are riveting. You are going to want to stick around and see them. I have never seen a performance that is not just amazingly well choreographed and beautiful. Even when things don't go the way they want them to go that way because they're that good. So thank you all for being with us here today. They are things going on. I was asked during the break, where do I see the future for the the Renaissance Festival here, the Renaissance Fair. I see the future as being bright, bold, and I think this is going to become a thing despite the fact that we're going to be able to go out and visit people in real life. It's going to allow people to miraculously see acts and events that they haven't been able to see before. So I could see this as maybe not quite weekly, but it's going to be an ongoing event that I think is going to be terrific. So I am looking forward to this. I know there's a lot of hard work and effort put into this, and these guys need you to like the page, share the page, tell all your friends, tell people you don't know about it, because they are missing out on things like this right here today. And it is going to be amazing. So now, is everybody ready? You got your water? Because I know I do. And make sure you're hydrated because we're going to go visit. I can sense that in just about a minute here, we're going to see the lovely Judas and the talented Magnolia. And they are going to perform and be amazing and incredible. And that is always fun to see. I know they're one of my favorite acts to see. I always try to visit them when I can see them at the fair. I stop by when I'm not busy doing other stuff and throw a couple of dollars in their hat and applaud and make noise at their show because these are wonderful people. Not only are they talented performers, they're wonderful people. And so keep in mind, everybody you see here today has Facebook pages and Instagram pages, and you should go like them, And Patreon. You need to remember to be able to go to Patreon. So here we go. Dr. Judas and Magnolia, please put your hands together. Here they come.
Good day, my lords and ladies. I am Queen Philippa of the Norman Medieval Fair of Norman, and I'm wishing you a safe and healthy time during this time of crisis. And please, thank you to the first responders and the essential workers coming from the firefly.
So well met and good day to you. I am Fugly, of late from the Medieval Fair of Norman. I'm here to raise a toast to you. Thank you for staying on your ships, keeping your distance, staying well, staying safe. Remember, this time, it's not the rats, it's us.
I've come home through the firefly.
May your ships only see calm seas. Farewell.
Hello everyone, it's your favourite pirate and fairy, Sparrow here. Just telling you all to be safe out there and everything's going to be alright. See you later mates, stay safe.
We're broadcasting to you today.
Hi there! Pick the pickpocket from the Iowa Renaissance Festival. Stay safe, stay healthy, and for the love of all that is shiny, stay inside.
Now, today we have a very special set for you. This is a song and story set that we generally reserve for our dearest friends and fans. This is a set that focuses on loving kindness. Do you know what? Based on what's going on in the world today, I believe we could all use a little bit more loving kindness. So we're happy. We're honored to share this with you today. Now, I would like to start out by telling you a story. You know, often at a festival when I say that, the whole audience says, a story. But this is a little bit different today. So I'm going to need your help. Wherever you are, I need you to type in the comments, a story. Or I need you to give me a little heart reaction to let me know you're there. No. Better yet, wherever you are, I want you to stand up and yell out, a story. I want you to yell it so loud that your next door neighbor bangs on your wall and says, what's going on over there? And you yell back at them and say, we're watching Judas and Magnolia. Tune in. Can you folks do that for us? I'm going to assume you said yes. Because if you said no, it would be a very short show. Let's give it a try. Would you folks like to hear a story today? Oh, you know, I swear, I could hear you from here, folks. Now, this story takes place on a day, why, very much like today, there was a grandmother and her grandson, and they were strolling down the beach. And out of nowhere, a wave sweeps over them and withdraws. And the grandson was missing. So the grandmother, why, she becomes distraught. She starts looking everywhere for her grandson until she pleads to the heavens for his return. And out of nowhere, a second wave sweeps over her and withdraws. And there in her very arms was her grandson. Why, she looks at her grandson. She looks up towards heaven, and she says, he had a hat. You know, folks, it's a silly story. It's a ridiculous story. But I believe it has a moral. And to me, the message is this. Let's overlook the small things, hey? And let's be happy for the time we have with the people we love and cherish. Because you never know when that time's going to come to an end. If you happen to be with somebody you love and care about, why don't you look over at them, give them a smile. And then in these dark days, if you're quarantined away from the person you love, why don't you just put their name in the comments and send them some digital love? I'm sure they'll see it after a while, and it'll warm their hearts. Now, you know, speaking of the people we love, I would like to turn it over to the beautiful Magnolia for a song.
Thank you, my dear. Well, friends, in that story was about a grandmother and her grandchild. And, you know, this month, April, is very special because it is actually one of my grandmother's birth months. My Nana was born in April. And this is also the month that she passed through the veil to the other side. So she's been on my mind and in my heart very much lately. This next song that I'm going to sing for you has been one of my favorites since childhood. But when I sing it these days, I hear Nana singing it to me. And when I sing this for you today, I don't just want you to hear me singing another song for you. I want you to hear this as a blessing for you from my Nana. Because we all have times when we're afraid, and we all have times when we're lonely. But because you joined us here today, you now have one more person up there looking out for you down here. This is Be Not Afraid. You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words in far off, and all will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will bring you rest. If you pass through raging waters in the sea, you shall not drown. If you walk amid the burning flames, you shall not be harmed. If you stand before the power of hell, and death is at your side, know that I am with you through it all. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. Thank you, friends.
Very good. That's beautiful. Would you good people like to hear another story? You know what to do if you would. Put it there in the comments. Now, this second story, it takes place in a wee little village in Ireland. And in this wee little village, there was a wee little church. The type of church everybody would gather at on a Sunday. And one Sunday in particular, the father, he was a preaching, and he says, "Woe to those people who gamble." And a lady in the back row, a woman in the back row says, "Amen, preacher." So he continues, and he says, "Woe to those people who smoke." That woman in the back row, the woman in the back row says, "Amen, preacher." So the preacher's invigorated, and he says, "Woe to those people who drink." And that lady in the back pew says, "Now you're meddling." You know, folks, it's a silly story, but to me, it also has a moral. And the moral is this: let's not look too closely at the faults of others, because we certainly would hate it if they looked too closely at our faults. Now, with that said, I'd like to turn it over for another beautiful song and a bit of excitement from the beautiful Magnolia.
Thank you, dear. So this next song Speaking of church, this next song was written by a 12th century Benedictine abbess. And what I want you to take from this song is that love is abundant for all throughout the entire universe. This song was written by Hildegard von Bingen, and this song is for you.
Would you good people like to hear another story? Oh, I knew you would. Again, I can hear you all the way in Dick Cheney's bunker. Now, this story takes place on that very same beach we were talking about at the beginning. There was an older man. He was out on his morning stroll when he stumbles and he looks down into the ground and he picks up a lamp. Why, he dusts off the lamp and out from the lamp comes a genie. Why, the genie looks down at the old man and says, "You freed me from the lamp. I will grant you one wish." So the old man thinks about it for a second, and he says, "Genie, oh, genie, my wife has wanted to visit the old country for a long time, but she's afraid of flying, and she's afraid of boats. Genie, will you build us a bridge from here to the old country?" Why, the genie looks down at the old man and says, "That's a lot to ask for one wish. Can you think of anything else?" So the old man does, and he says, "Genie, will you help me understand American politics?" Why, the genie looks down at the old man and says, "One lane or two?" You know, it's a silly story, but to me there's something in it. To me it says that old man only had one wish, and he was going to use it on the person he loved most. I hope that you and I can all become a little bit more like that old man. Now, speaking of the person I love most, I'd like to turn it over again to Magnolia.
Now, in that story, there was a woman who longed just to go back home. This next song is about homecomings. But first I want to say that we know it is true for us in our lives that when you truly love something or someone, you must be willing to let them go, trusting that the love that you share will always remain. Now, our friends and our fans and our family all over the country and the world, you let us go season after season, knowing that we will do our best to come back to you. Now, things might be a little jumbled now, and I don't know when I'll get to see you next, but I hope you know that in our hearts, we do plan to come back to you just as soon as we can. So this is Homeward Bound. In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer's ceased its gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, when lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time. Bind me not to the pasture, and chain me not to the plough. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. If you find it's me you're missing, and if you're hoping I'll return to your thoughts, I'll soon be listening. In the road I'll stop and turn, and then the wind will set me racing as my journey is its length. On my path I'll be retracing when I'm homeward bound again. Bind me not to the pasture, and chain me not to the plough. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, I'll be homeward bound again. Thank you, friends.
You know, folks, speaking of your calling, Magnolia and I generally work as escape artists and illusionists. Would you good people like to see a magic trick? I've brought something special for you today. This is a magic trick often done by the great illusionist, Harry Houdini. He would be invited to a dinner party, and while he was there, people would say to Harry, Harry, do for us a magic trick. And he would reluctantly agree. He would reach onto the table, and he would pick up crackers. Why, he would take these crackers, he would fan them out, and he would ask somebody to pick one of these crackers. Now, I'm going to have Magnolia do this for me. Magnolia, please choose one of these crackers. Now, hold it up to the screen so everybody can see it. Folks, I want you to focus on that cracker. The one she's holding, not me. You're going to need to recognize it in just a second. I'll take it from you. Good. Now he would take the cracker, he would hold it in his hand, and he would go, he would make it disappear. And he would tell you that on the count of 3, this cracker would completely vanish. He would go 1, 2, 3. And it would be gone. Okay, that was a little ridiculous, I know, but you know, to me that says something. To me it says, do what you love, folks. Even if it's not the most impressive thing in the world, do it because you love it. You know, we have all got a little bit more time on our hands while we're in this quarantine social separation. I personally hope that we all leave this with a new hobby, a new thing of interest, something that we've explored. Because it's what we spend our time doing that's going to continue on with us into the future. Do what you love, folks. Now, speaking of things that we love, Magnolia, would you like to share something else that you love?
Thank you. So, doing what we love and helping others to find the time and the courage to do the things that they love, well, in our community, that's such a big part of our lives. Speaking of our community, well, this next song is for 2 people in particular who, in following what they loved and what they were passionate about, they helped to bring joy and beauty to countless souls. This song is Bring on the Starlight, and this is for Becky and Jack. Oh, we have come to an end, and it's time to say so long, my friends. I hope you can feel that the meaning is real when we promise to meet once again. Be you a rich man, a poor man, a fool or a showman, we've gathered our hands and we've made a merry stand. People, they come and they go. It's the nature of things, I suppose. But one thing's for certain, the night is a curtain where the moon of our memory glows. So bring on the starlight, make everything end right. A dream is a memory that grows. And a fair time was our time, a dream time to share time. Yes, a fair time was a fine time to know. Yes, a fair time was a fine time to know. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. You know, speaking of sharing stuff, I would like to introduce you good people to one of Magnolia and I's dearest friends. This here is Frank, the mind-reading goose.
Oh,
now, Frank knows all, sees all, and for you good people, will tell more. He is an amazing 100% accurate 15% of the time. And he is prepared to read your minds today. Now, Frank is giving me instructions, and I'm going to give them to you. Everybody, please think of a number between 1 and 10. Good. Now, I would like you to multiply that number by, let's multiply that number by 9. Whatever your number you're thinking of, multiply it by 9. I'll give you a second. I know math is hard. Good. Now, once you have a number in mind, if it has 2 digits, I want you to add those 2 digits together. Great. Now let's, so Frank would like you to subtract 5 from whatever number you're thinking of now. Good, good. Now, everybody has a number in mind. please take a moment and let's equate that number to a letter. 1 is A, 2 is B, 3 is C, and so on. Everybody have a letter? Good. Now, I want you to think of a country that starts with that letter. It could be any country in the world. Think of a country that starts with the letter. Very good. Frank, what next? Oh, okay. Now, Frank would like you to think of the next letter in the alphabet and think of an animal that starts with that letter. Any animal? I want you to envision in your mind. Yeah. Envision the animal. Great. Frank, are you gazing into these people's minds? Good. Do you have your prediction? Frank is ready. Frank says that many of you folks out there are thinking of a gray elephant from Denmark.
Oh, I was.
Good job, Frank. Now, Frank also has a special offer for you people today. If you happen to give $5 or more to Judas and Magnolia, Frank will give you a personal goose fortune telling. That's right. If you would like to see what a goose has in mind for your fortune, please send Judas and Magnolia $5 or more. We will film a special video for you in which our friend the mind reader here tells your fortune. Now, with that bit of fun out the way, Frank, you did a great job. We're going to turn the stage over to Magnolia for one last song.
Oh dear. Well, friends, it is almost that time. Now, for travelers like us, we don't say goodbye. We say things like, see you down the road. And the next time that you're at a fair, you might hear something like, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. That is the name of this final song today. This song is by Lolly Foy. And Lolly, if you're watching, and for all the rest of you, I'm not sure when I'll get to see you again, but I do trust that I will see you down the road. The time has come to say farewell. Godspeed on your way. Down the road somewhere, we'll meet again someday. And though it's time for us to part, I'll hold you always in my heart. And measure my worth in your friendship, but for now I'll say, merry meet, merry part, merry meet again, in this world or beyond. Though the days till then be long, my heart will sing this song on the day when we meet again. We have shared wine and conversation as evening shades grow long. We've spit and sworn and swaggered and raised our voice in song. We've stood where falling waters run, applauded for the setting sun. We've loved and wept and raged and helped each other to be strong. So merry meet, merry part, merry meet again, in this world or beyond. Though the days till then be long, my heart will sing this song on the day when we meet again. There is no road so long or lonesome as the travels without a friend. No sound as sweet as welcomes when you've reached your journey's end. As through this wandering life we roam, where find we friends, there find we home. Well, met Godspeed and fare thee well, till next we time do spend. Merry meet, merry part, merry meet again, in this world or beyond. Though the days till then be long, my heart will sing its song on the day when we meet again. So raise our glass to absent friends, to those we hold most dear. For in such fond remembrance we all have comrades here. And when our valiant tales are told of mirth and grief and exploits bold, no distance, time, nor hill and dale can hide them from us here. So merry meet, merry part, merry meet again, in this world or beyond. Though the days till then be long, my heart will sing its song on the day when we meet again. On the day when we meet again.
Thank you, babe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Magnolia, Frank, and I. We hope you can find it in your hearts. Put a little bit of money in our hat. And remember, if you give $5 or more, Frank the mind-reading goose will predict your future. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that you stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
That was the amazing Judas and Magnolia. Everybody in your homes, put your hands together. They can hear you, they can feel you, and they know you. They are amazing performers, and that was a terrific performance by them. So I just wanted to remind everybody today that we had Fergus the Fae on this morning, and you can find him on Facebook. You can find him all over the place. These links are going to be in the comments section, so please go take a look for them. And he was looking for you to donate to medievalfair.org for the Norman Medieval Fair. It's the Medieval Fair of Norman, I'm sorry. And Tibbles the Fairy, you can find her. She's got all sorts of links. So that was linktr.ee/Tibbles the Fairy. And I just lost what I was looking at. But we had all sorts of wonderful performers here. Periwinkle Twinkle the Fairy. She did the Fairy. Stormglass Art. Judas and Magnolia. Alexander James Adams was on. Queen Blossom was on. These people all have links. You need to go donate a little bit of money to them. Say again? And the dancers that were on, they were amazing. Please go put a couple of dollars in everybody's hat. They need support during this time for people like you. And please, yeah. wow, I can't believe I got to be part of this. This is amazing. These people were incredible. Um, and we're coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to have a little bit of a montage that's going to be just incredible. So thank you all for listening to me. If you want to hear more about how I do divination, please check me out. I am at Celtic Moon Fortunes. I'm trying not to put myself too far out there, but I am on Facebook. I will answer questions. I will talk to people. Make sure you're liking the page, you're sharing the page. It is the www.Renaissance Fair, and these guys are doing amazing things, and we are so lucky to have them. And so there's a little bit of some stuff that they're going to show you and they're going to put up, and then that kind of brings our time together today to a close. But you know, they're going to be doing more. And goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.
Hi, fairy friends. This is Flyleaf the Book Fairy. I'm Mr. Gorgly Eyes from the Fantasy Festival at the Highlands Mansion and Gardens in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. Remember that books can take you wherever you want, even when you're stuck at home. I hope you have many magical adventures, and I'll see you soon. Bye!
Hello, lads and lassies. I am Gia, the Rock Fairy of the Dream Folk at the Great Lakes Medieval Fair in the magical land of Ohio. And I hope you have a right bonny day.
Greetings from Indigo from the Kansas City Renaissance Festival and the Fey Realm. Be safe, mortals, so we might see you again soon.
Greetings, Earthlings! My name is Pearl Greenbrier, and this here is my friend Goblin. Can you say hi to Goblin? We are from the Texarkana Renaissance Fair, although I'm pretty sure you have seen us at other fairs as well. And we are from the fairy realm. Ain't that true, Goblin? Yeah, we are from the fairy realm. And we are here to remind you to stay safe. And if you can, stay at home, but stay safe and stay healthy and keep the magic alive. Because we know you got it in you.
Hello, I'm Magpie with Fairy Tales and Hay Bales. Along with Bro the Troll and Sprout the Gilly-Doo, we tell stories at the Kansas City Renaissance Festival. Now, I've come to the mortal world to make sure that you're all being safe, that you're all using your noggins, and to say that I love you all very much. How do I get out of the mortal world? Alright, bye.
Oh, well met! It's Mint from Canterbury and the Kansas City Renaissance Festival. And I just want to remind you mortals that magic is everywhere, no matter the circumstances. Till next time!
Rowan casts this circle, sealing in happiness, well-being, personal hygiene, social distancing, keeping out hatred, bigotry, angriness, illness. He does so first by summoning Firan, masculinity and strength. May it guide us, protect us, and keep us safe through these awful times.
We summon Bani, femininity, that which is a mother's unquestionable love for her child. The kindness we should show to one another as a mother shows to a child as they learn and grow. In these changing times, we must all learn to grow and change.
I invoke Cray for the stability to be one's self in these trying times, and the growth for us to be separate but yet united as a family.
We invite into the circle air to bring us the aptitude to follow those providing us with informed guidance, the patience and wit to handle those ill-informed, and to blow our way the knowledge of better days to come.
We call on Tina, Fire, for the passions that keep us going on these days that we are within, and to keep our hearts burning for those that we do not get to see in the times we need it most.
Into this circle, we invoke Ishka, water, for compassion, empathy, and cleansing for all who need it in this time.
We welcome Ishka, water, so that we might face this time with grace and serenity.
The circle is closed, but it is not broken. As above, so below. So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be. So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Oh, one more thing about water. Wash your hands.
Now, go wash your hands.